golden immortal treasures were undoubtedly a crucial factor in battles between golden immortals. However, that didn't mean the more, the better. After all, even golden immortals had a limit to how much immortal energy they could unleash. There was also a cap on how many golden immortal-grade treasures one could wield at once. Jiang Chengxuan already possessed 4 such treasures: the scripture of eternal manifestation, the primordial chaos sword, the ninefold Bodhi lotus lamp, and the dilapidated celestial light scroll. Together, they synergized perfectly to push his combat power to its peak. Any additional treasures would have little marginal benefit. Instead, it would be better to give them to Shen Ruyan, where they could be put to maximum use. As for Shen Ruyan, who was still only at the perfected profound immortal realm, how could she wield 3 golden immortal-grade treasures? That problem had already been addressed. Jiang Chengxuan had long since noticed that Shen Ruyan had reached the peak of the profound immortal stage and could attempt a breakthrough to the golden immortal realm. With the spoils left behind by the blood-fiend demon immortal, along with the current foundation of the Haoran immortal sect, assisting Shen Ruyan in her breakthrough would not be a problem. Since my husband insists, I can only accept with gratitude, Shen Ruyan finally said gently, accepting the 2 golden immortal treasures. The two shared another tender moment in the grand hall. After handling their affairs, they departed. In the days that followed, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan enjoyed a period of tranquility. Every day, Jiang Chengxuan would share with Shen Ruyan his insights and comprehension of the golden immortal realm, helping her prepare for the breakthrough. I feel completely confident now. One day, Shen Ruyan said firmly, her beautiful eyes resolute. Over this time, she had adjusted her state to perfection and was fully prepared to attempt the breakthrough to golden immortal. Good, if my wife says so, then it is so. Jiang Chengxuan didn't say much more, expressing only complete trust in her. As if breaking through to golden immortal was no more than a routine cultivation process. And so, with Jiang Chengxuan accompanying her, Shen Ruyan entered the same place where he himself had once broken through to golden immortal. All the defensive arrays and spiritual energy-gathering formations were already in place. My love, don't push yourself too hard. If anything goes wrong, just wait until next time. Don't worry, just wait for my good news. Haha, of course, I've always believed your talent is no less than mine. They both knew that once this closed-door cultivation began, it might mean another separation lasting thousands of years. So, before Shen Ruyan began, the two lingered together for a long while before parting. A few days later, when massive immortal energy surged and enveloped the core of the Haoran immortal sect, Jiang Chengxuan was left alone in the sect, quietly waiting. Patriarch, a visitor from Zheshan sect has arrived. Suddenly, a message shattered the stillness. Jiang Chengxuan's brows furrowed as he looked at the reporting elder. Hadn't the envoy from the Zheshan sect left this region long ago? Why would someone suddenly show up again? All right, I understand. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan waved the elder off. Although the visitor was unexpected, the two sects had interacted frequently. As fellow major sects, it was common to cross paths. And Zheshan sect was the stronger of the two. If they came with a request, Jiang Chengxuan was obligated to at least hear them out. He passed through numerous palaces and pavilions, misty forests and resplendent peaks, before arriving alone at the reception hall of Haoran immortal sect. Inside, 3 Haoran elders were seated and speaking with a stranger, an immortal Jiang Chengxuan had never met before. But it was clear this stranger was the Zheshan envoy. As soon as Jiang Chengxuan entered, the atmosphere shifted. The elders rose and respectfully greeted him. Welcome, Patriarch. Jiang Chengxuan gave a slight nod. The 3 elders visibly relaxed, then bowed to the Zheshan envoy and withdrew. Now, only Jiang Chengxuan and the visitor remained in the vast hall. Elder Jiang, it's been a long time. The visitor was the first to speak, smiling and rising to greet him. Jiang Chengxuan, not one to show coldness to a smiling face, returned the gesture with a calm smile and got straight to the point. So, honored envoy of Zheshan sect, what brings you to my Haoran sect today? This man had once been part of the Zheshan group sent to select disciples, and Jiang Chengxuan had met him then. I come on orders and beg forgiveness for disturbing your cultivation, Elder Jiang. The envoy's expression became overly humble, even a bit obsequious. At this, Jiang Chengxuan gained a clearer sense of the situation. As expected, the envoy had come with a request. He didn't say much, just smiled faintly and found a seat, clearly signaling, "Get to the point, I won't waste time." "Ahem, I've come this time regarding a matter involving the forbidden zone of deep earth. Has Elder Jiang heard the news?" This finally piqued Jiang Chengxuan's interest, a curious light flashing in his eyes. He had only recently returned from the ancient golden immortal cave dwelling, and hadn't had time to pay attention to current events. But from the envoy's words, it seemed something significant had occurred. Chapter 1935, The Forbidden Zone Incident, The Envoy from Zhechen Sect Part 2. Seeing that Jiang Chengxuan was intrigued, the Zhechen Sect envoy's smile grew even brighter. Seizing the moment, he began pouring out everything he knew. "Elder Jiang, I'm sure you're no stranger to the ancient forbidden zones. They've existed since the birth of the ancient realm itself, mysterious and incomprehensible lands of chaos. Within the forbidden zones, all natural laws are twisted. Especially in the depths, even golden immortals face grave danger should they force their way inside. The deep earth forbidden zone is one such region, located closest to our ancient realm's territory. Recently, it seems something unusual has been discovered there by our Zhechen sect ancestors." As the envoy explained, Jiang Chengxuan finally understood why Zhechen sect had sought him out. It turned out that the deep earth forbidden zone had been acting up frequently in recent times. Continuous anomalies and signs of unrest had emerged, prompting Zhechen sect to dispatch investigators, only to suffer repeated casualties. Forbidden zones were among the most taboo and mysterious places in the ancient realm. They were unimaginably dangerous, yet sometimes, fortuitous opportunities would erupt from within, luring desperate cultivators to venture in. Even the mighty Zhechen sect had profited greatly from these zones in the past. They had entire divisions dedicated to exploring and extracting resources from the forbidden zones, and thus were more knowledgeable about them than most. This time, however, the continuous losses raised alarms within the sect. They soon dispatched a golden immortal powerhouse to the deep earth forbidden zone, hoping to suppress the disturbances. But to their horror, that golden immortal nearly failed to return. When he finally did return to the sect, he was gravely wounded. Worse yet, he had been tainted by a strange corruption from within the forbidden zone. The cultivator now lay in a coma, more puppet than man. The entire Zhechen sect was shaken. The high elders were deeply unsettled. The forbidden zone wasn't far from their territory. If a true disaster were to break out, it could mean utter annihilation. After all, a golden immortal was no trivial force, and yet one had nearly perished in this crisis. Throughout the history of the ancient realm, there had been countless immortal sects destroyed by rampaging forbidden zones. Those places could create miracles or bring ruin. "So," Jiang Chengxuan's eyes sharpened, cutting straight to the point, "you're planning to gather golden immortal experts from nearby sects to jointly suppress the forbidden zone's unrest." The Zhechen envoy's body stiffened for a moment, then he smiled bitterly and nodded with a sigh. "Elder Jiang is truly wise. Yes, that is precisely the reason I was sent." Then, trying to bolster the mood, his eyes lit up and he spoke with conviction. "However, our grand elders are sincere. This is no forced conscription. If Elder Jiang is willing to assist, our Zhechen sect is more than willing to offer compensation worthy of your prestige." The shift in tone was understandable. With the mighty backing of Zhechen sect, such an offer was indeed enticing. Even with his current strength, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but hesitate, carefully weighing the situation. He had entered a forbidden zone once before, but only at its outermost edge. He had never ventured deep inside. Truthfully, Jiang Chengxuan held a deep wariness of forbidden zones. Back in the Xuanming immortal region, he had witnessed firsthand the deadly consequences of their corruption. One such victim was the former owner of the scripture of eternal manifestation and the ninefold Bodhi lotus lamp, a mysterious profound immortal who had tried to break into the ancient realm. While reclaiming fragments of that cultivator's realm, Jiang Chengxuan had learned of their demise at the hands of the forbidden zone's sinister influence. The corruption from that incident had followed Jiang Chengxuan afterward, even threatening to destroy the entire Xuanming immortal region. The terror of it remained vivid in his memory. All of this had made Jiang Chengxuan deeply cautious of the forbidden zones. Even after 10,000 years in the ancient realm, he had never once considered entering a forbidden zone to seek treasures. "With my current strength, perhaps I could give it a try." But now he had to consider the possibility seriously. First, his cultivation had already reached the threshold of Grand Luo Golden Immortal. His confidence had never been stronger. Second, achieving that next step required a rare, heaven-defying opportunity. Without venturing into places like the Forbidden Zones, such a chance would be nearly impossible to obtain. Wealth and danger walk hand in hand. Jiang Chengxuan understood that clearly. And in the ancient realm, there had indeed been golden immortals who emerged from Forbidden Zones reborn, reaching new heights of power. This opportunity, rare as it was, might be worth seizing. Furthermore, with a behemoth like Zheshan sect offering support, he might even gain allies in the venture. Of course, Jiang Chengxuan knew full well the risks involved. Despite the talk of cooperation, there was no real foundation of trust between him and Zheshan sect. How much true support could they offer in a crisis? The Forbidden Zone had already crippled a golden immortal. Even Zheshan sect, with all its power, had no solution. This was not a matter that could be resolved easily. A heavy silence fell over the hall. The Zheshan envoy dared not speak, only glancing at Jiang Chengxuan nervously as he waited. Zheshan sect's very act of seeking outside help showed how desperate they had become. The envoy had come with orders. He had to succeed. Very well. Since your esteemed sect is in such need, how could I, as an ally, turn a blind eye? Finally, after a long silence, Jiang Chengxuan spoke with grave sincerity. The envoy's relief was instant and overwhelming. Beaming, he nodded furiously. Elder Jiang's righteousness is admirable, like the unending waves of the river. Please be assured, our Zheshan sect will never let down a true friend. Jiang Chengxuan gave a righteous smile in return and asked, "Then when does your sect plan to depart? How many sect elders are expected to participate?" These were his most pressing concerns now that he had agreed. Given Zheshan sect's connections, Jiang Chengxuan assumed many golden immortals would join the mission. That assumption had influenced his decision to accept. Well, to be honest with you, Elder Jiang. The envoy scratched his head awkwardly and said humbly, "You're the first one to agree." That stunned Jiang Chengxuan. His eyes widened. It seemed he had underestimated just how terrifying the Forbidden Zones were to the cultivators of the ancient realm. He had thought himself overly cautious, but these native immortals were even more fearful. Still, surely more will agree once they see Elder Jiang has joined. The envoy scrambled to explain, afraid Jiang Chengxuan might suddenly change his mind. But Jiang Chengxuan raised his hand and cut him off. "Since I've agreed, I won't go back on my word. When your sect has assembled the team, send word to me." Though surprised, Jiang Chengxuan had no intention of withdrawing. The more others feared it, the more desperate Zheshan sect would become. And when the stakes are high, the rewards rise with them. In this kind of situation, Zheshan sect would be forced to sweeten the deal further to ensure Jiang Chengxuan's full cooperation. "Good, excellent. Elder Jiang's honor leaves me in awe." "Enough, that's all, you may go." Seeing that the envoy was about to launch into more flattery, Jiang Chengxuan raised his hand again to stop him. The envoy smiled sheepishly, bowed deeply in thanks, and took his leave with haste, grateful, relieved, and slightly embarrassed. Chapter 1936, Soulbeast Undercurrent Bargaining begins Part 1. The unrest in the Forbidden Zone was no trivial matter. It was an incident that none in the ancient realm could afford to ignore. Even a colossal force like the Zheshan Immortal sect was filled with dread, even verging on panic. The level of importance attached to this issue had already risen to one concerning the very survival of the sect itself. Half a month after sending off the envoy from Zheshan sect, Jiang Chengxuan received a new message from them. The sheer speed of their response surprised him somewhat. After all, Zheshan sect still needed to rally golden immortals from other sects, a feat that wasn't easy to accomplish. For all that to happen in just over 10 days, it seemed almost impossibly fast. Yet Jiang Chengxuan harbored no distracting thoughts about it. On the contrary, he felt a surge of anticipation. For this journey into the Forbidden Zone, he had already made ample preparations. Since it was an unavoidable event, then he would face it with full strength and resolve. All the contingencies and protective arrays are in place. In that case, let's go see what awaits. Before leaving, Jiang Chengxuan made sure to set up layered defenses behind him, just in case something like the Bloodfiend Demon Immortal incident were to happen again. With his current power, the barriers he left behind would be unbreakable even to most golden immortals, more than sufficient to protect the core areas of the Haoran immortal sect. Without further hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan stepped out from the grand halls of the sect. He summoned the Zheshan sect's coordinates within his divine sense. With a wave of his hand, space shattered before him, revealing a mystic gate. The next moment he stepped into it, space rippling around him. In a flash of brilliance, Jiang Chengxuan's figure vanished into the void. Ancient realm, territory of Zheshan. This was a vast and boundless region, part of the sprawling ancient realm. As land ruled by the hegemonic Zheshan immortal sect, it was considered one of the most bountiful and flourishing territories among the dozens across the region. Endless wealth, spiritual resources, and powerful cultivators filled this land, a true cradle of immortal greatness. Within this vast territory were tens of thousands of kingdoms and countless living beings. Immortal cities stood tall across the landscape like stars across the sky, each harboring its own profound Taoist heritage that had survived for millennia. Above them all, only one force stood supreme, the Zheshan immortal sect. Its lineage was said to have existed since the founding of this land itself, rising and falling with its fortunes, forging countless legends and nurturing countless powerhouse cultivators who looked down upon all others with disdain. Legend held that the first ancestor of Zheshan sect might have been a primordial Grand Luo, golden immortal. After traversing countless layers of spatial barriers and crossing unimaginable distances, Jiang Chengxuan finally arrived at this legendary land. Stepping out of the mystic gate, he overlooked the terrain below and couldn't help but be awestruck by its magnificence. My Haoran territory, compared to this Zheshan territory, it's likely only a third of the size. With just a glance, he could tell from the density of spiritual qi and the vastness of the land how wide the gap was between them. For a territory, the richness of its natural resources directly determined how many immortals it could cultivate, and immortals in turn would give back to the world through their achievements, uplifting it in return. It was a cycle of mutual growth. That was the hidden foundation of a true immortal sect. As long as the sect didn't perish, even in times of decline, fortune would eventually return, and glory would rise once more. This was the key difference between the current Haoran immortal sect and a true peak-level force like the Zheshan immortal sect. So that over there is the Zheshan immortal sect, truly grand and magnificent. As he gazed into the distance, Jiang Chengxuan finally caught sight of his destination. On the far horizon was a dazzling display of shifting lights and colors, like a celestial lake hanging upside down in the sky, strewn with stars, glittering treasures, and jade pavilions sparkling like jewels. In truth, it was an entire continent suspended in midair, tilted against the sky. This floating landmass housed countless palaces, towers, and cities built with divine craftsmanship. Their glass-like structures shimmered with immortal light. The unending waves of this immortal radiance created the illusion of a vast sky lake. And with Jiang Chengxuan's vision, he could see even more. Layers upon layers of formless powers and Tao laws protecting the sect's gates, rendering them elusive, shifting, half real and half illusory. A terrifying aura emanated from the floating land, so intense that even from thousands of miles away, it could shake one's soul. Without holding back his presence, Jiang Chengxuan transformed into a streak of brilliant immortal light and flew straight toward the Zheshan immortal sect. As he approached, cultivators across the region were immediately shaken. Countless immortals sensed his arrival, stunned as they began to murmur. Who is that? How dare they fly so brazenly through the territory of the Zheshan sect? What a terrifying aura, and they're unaffected by Zheshan's suppressive might. Could it be a grand elder from within the sect? No, that's not it. I've seen the higher elders of Zheshan sect from afar. This isn't one of them. Clearly, the region around the Zheshan sect was a no-fly zone, especially for outsiders. Jiang Chengxuan's approach had undoubtedly drawn the attention of those within the sect. But to everyone's surprise, the Zheshan sect didn't react with hostility or aggression. Instead, three figures flew out from the sect's gates and intercepted Jiang Chengxuan near the entrance. Elder Jiang, welcome, welcome. We've been expecting you. Chapter 1937, Soul Beast Tide Bargaining Part 2. Welcome, Ancestor Jiang. Welcome, Ancestor Jiang. The three men bowed deeply in the void, beaming with respect. This scene undoubtedly shocked countless observing immortals, leaving them utterly stunned. Never had they seen anyone welcomed by the Zheshan celestial sect with such grandeur. Fellow Taoists, Jiang Chengxuan didn't act arrogant in the face of such honor. He simply nodded in acknowledgement. The man leading the group was the same emissary from Zheshan who had previously sought him out. The other two, clad in sect attire, were clearly elders of Zheshan's celestial sect. "Please, our grand elders are already awaiting your arrival." Due to the urgency of the Forbidden Zone incident, the trio wasted no time in idle talk and directly led Jiang Chengxuan toward the sect's interior. Following the three, Jiang Chengxuan entered the domain of this powerful sect. From the outside, the sect resembled an inverted continent, yet walking within, it felt entirely natural. If there was one word to describe it, magnificent. The towering halls and cities were all forged from precious celestial materials. The sect resembled a miniature world, with myriad factions, each occupying their own territories and flourishing independently. Immortal mists swirled, starlight flowed like rivers. As they crossed resplendent and vast territories, the buildings gradually became smaller but more awe-inspiring, guarded by fewer immortals, though all were strong. Some cast curious glances at Jiang Chengxuan, most with polite or welcoming expressions. Yet a few bore arrogance and discontent in their eyes. Jiang Chengxuan paid them no mind, meeting their gazes with indifference. He could guess that within Zheshan's celestial sect itself, opinions differed on how to handle the Forbidden Zone. Some likely supported bringing in outside aid for the fastest, most stable resolution. Others may have rejected the idea, unwilling to air dirty laundry and stain the sect's prestige. "We've arrived. Ancestor Jiang, please enter." Inside are the great figures in charge of the Forbidden Zone matter. Eventually, Jiang Chengxuan was led to a colossal structure like a cliff of white jade, carved with intricate totems and exuding a majestic pressure. With a nod and without hesitation, he stepped through its gates. As the grand doors opened, brilliant celestial light streamed outward, bathing everything in radiant glow. The main hall within was hewn from white jade, with several thrones embedded deep into the platform. 5 figures already sat upon them. As Jiang Chengxuan entered, they all turned to look at him. Without doubt, each one was at the golden immortal level. The two seated at the center exuded an even more powerful aura, clearly beyond early-stage golden immortal. They wore the robes of Zheshan's celestial sect and were obviously its grand elders. The other 3 were likely the golden immortals, whom Zheshan had painstakingly invited to aid in quelling the Forbidden Zone disturbance. Among them, one figure wore a familiar smile, as if he'd been expecting this, old man Yunqi. It seemed he, too, had taken a liking to something within the Zheshan sect and accepted their plea for aid. "Are you the Lord of Haoran, Jiang Chengxuan?" The central elder spoke with a deep, commanding voice, echoing through the hall. He had a lion-like mane of white hair and beard, his presence exuding natural dominance. Jiang Chengxuan neither humbled himself nor acted proud. He calmly floated to a throne and sat down before replying. "Indeed, might I ask for your esteemed names?" The others had already known of him. Upon his inquiry, each introduced themselves in turn. "I am Zhechuan, Grand Elder of Zheshan's Celestial Sect." "I am Jerry, also Grand Elder of Zheshan's Celestial Sect." "I am Xianxia Daxian, Lord of Xianxia Sect." "I am Haoshan Daxian, Lord of Haoshan Sect." "Ha, there's no need for this old man to introduce himself, is there, young friend Chengxuan?" Jiang Chengxuan chuckled lightly and nodded, saying no more. These were all old monsters, each with ties close or distant to Zheshan's celestial sect. "Enough with the pleasantries. Time is of the essence," said Zhechuan solemnly. "I believe all of you know why you were summoned. If you have any questions, speak now. Otherwise, since everyone is here, we will depart for the Forbidden Zone at once." After the introductions, the elderly lion-like Zhechuan spoke gravely, wasting no time. Everyone knew there was no need to delay. Xianxia Daxian was first to speak, bluntly asking, "What kind of disturbance has occurred in the deep earth Forbidden Zone, Elder Zhechuan? Could you elaborate?" It was a sharp question, one that also echoed the doubts of Jiang Chengxuan and the others. All leaned in to listen. "One of our golden immortal elders went to investigate. Though severely injured, he managed to return, relying on his celestial treasure to bring back some information. As expected, Zheshan's celestial sect had more detailed intelligence. In the deep earth Forbidden Zone, it appears a soul beast tide has emerged." Zhechuan's gaze turned sharp as he slowly spoke. Gasps filled the hall. Everyone had heard of it, the soul beast tide. In the records of ancient Forbidden Zone disturbances, This phenomenon had been documented a few times. Even Jiang Chengxuan had read fragmented accounts in ancient tomes. It was a terrifying anomaly where, due to some unknown cause, remnants of ancient beasts, souls from past or even future, would gather within the forbidden zone, forming a fearsome beast tide. And the beasts that could appear in such a tide, without exception, all were terrifying ancient species. Their souls, corrupted by the forbidden zone's sinister power, often mutated into horrifying new forms. And what made it a true tide was the sheer quantity, countless remnant souls swarming together. Among all known forbidden zone disturbances, soul beast tides ranked among the most dangerous. No wonder Zheshan's celestial sect, with all its power, still seeks outside aid, murmured someone. Indeed, such tides were wildly unstable. They could last for an unknown time or summon catastrophic numbers of ancient beast souls. The best strategy was always swift annihilation. Strike before the storm builds, suppress it at its source. Your sect is not one to act lightly, but when it does, it truly makes a splash. Old man Yunchi smirked in admiration. Zhechuan and Jerry frowned slightly, then Zhechuan added, "This time our Zheshan sect will shoulder the main assault. You, honored guests, are only required to provide support. As our emissaries likely informed you, we are willing to pay for your efforts. A request, a celestial treasure, whatever is fair. Please name your terms before we depart." Clearly, Zhechuan was both sincere and generous. His words lit up the room. Everyone present smiled with bright eyes, clearly interested. Anyone who had made it here was bold enough not to retreat easily. If Zheshan was willing to pay handsomely, then what was a little risk? In that case, I want a golden immortal treasure, and not just any kind, a weapon type. Xianxia immediately blurted out, eyes gleaming with greed. A weapon-grade golden immortal treasure. That demand was bold to the extreme, even outrageous. Several turned their heads toward Zhechuan to see how he'd respond. Accepted. After a brief silence, Zhechuan responded without emotion. The others drew in cold breaths, stunned. Even old man Yunchi's expression shifted slightly in amazement. Chapter 1938, Immortal Treasure Acquired, Entering the Forbidden Zone, Part 1. A golden, immortal treasure can be granted, but if you wish to receive an additional reward, it will depend on your performance during the operation. As the crowd reeled from the shock, Elder Zhechuan spoke again, causing everyone to finally breathe a sigh of relief. Clearly, while Zheshan's celestial sect could indeed afford the price of a weapon-class golden immortal treasure, it wasn't something they'd hand out lightly, especially not for someone merely assisting from the sidelines. Still, by saying it depended on one's performance during the mission, they hadn't closed the door. It left Xianxia with a glimmer of hope. This was how major powers manipulated people's hearts, with both stick and carrot. Hearing this, all eyes turned toward Xianxia. His gaze flickered with faint disappointment, but it still burned with greedy heat. After a brief pause, he nodded and said, "Very well, as Elder Zhechuan said. If I contribute greatly during the suppression, I hope your sect will not." His real intention had been to drive a hard bargain. Now that Zheshan had agreed to his expectations, he knew better than to push his luck further. HMPH. Elder Zhechuan snorted coldly, a trace of disdain flashing in his eyes. Then, to everyone's surprise, he pulled a ball of radiant immortal light from his robes and flung it toward Xianxia. Of course, this wasn't an attack out of dissatisfaction. As the glowing object hovered in front of Xian, it revealed itself to be a treasure radiating sacred brilliance, an ancient mirror, blood-red in hue, reflecting a dangerous aura. This item is the Dragonblood Treasure Mirror. It is a golden, immortal-grade artifact that can refine all things into Dragonblood force, which may then be wielded to strike foes. This treasure is yours to use for now. If you fulfill the conditions, it will serve as your reward. Elder Zhechuan's solemn voice echoed through the hall, leaving Xianxia and the others stunned once again. This gesture of granting a powerful weapon up front showcased the terrifying foundation and haughty confidence of Zheshan's celestial sect. Good. With such generosity, I shall give my all to help your sect suppress this soul beast tide. Xianxia immediately broke into gleeful laughter, storing the mirror into his robes, utterly satisfied and no longer making demands. All right, let's proceed. Zhechuan nodded indifferently and turned toward the other golden immortals who had yet to name their terms. Soon, under Zheshan's unexpectedly generous and decisive attitude, both Old Man Yunqi and Xianzhang Daxian had their requests met as well. The former, like Hao Shen, asked for a golden immortal treasure and was granted a defensive treasure, the crushing earth immortal seal. The latter requested a golden immortal breakthrough pill, intended to help him advance to mid-stage golden immortal. Zhechuan agreed without hesitation. In an instant, the atmosphere in the hall became fervent. Everyone now held supreme treasures in their hands, full of satisfaction and surging with battle intent. They could hardly wait to march on the deep earth-forbidden zone and clash with the soul beast tide in a life-and-death battle. One had to admit, with an employer as sincere and generous as Zheshan's celestial sect, even these old monsters couldn't help but feel a trace of loyalty. And you, Lord of Haoran. Next, Elder Zhechuan turned to Jiang Chengxuan, his voice steady and his gaze sharpening. Among all the golden immortals present, Jiang Chengxuan was undoubtedly the most prominent. Zhechuan had heard the rumors, how he had slain the arterial blood demon immortal. That story had long since reached Zheshan's ears. As a rising golden immortal, Jiang had overthrown an entire power structure with overwhelming strength. Naturally, someone like Zhechuan would be curious about him. My request is quite simple. I want a thread of Xianliu Dao crystal. Yang Chengshuan's cheerful voice stunned the room. Zhechuan and Jerry both frowned, pupils narrowing sharply. Even Hao Shen Daxian, who had initially driven the hardest bargain, was momentarily dumbfounded. This kid, is he even bolder than me? Xianliu Dao crystal, do you even know what that is, boy? At that moment, Jerry, who had remained silent until now, couldn't help but grow agitated, barking at Jiang. Yet before he could go further, Zhechuan raised a hand to interrupt, gazing solemnly at Jiang as he asked in a low voice. Quite the appetite. Xianliu Dao crystal, our sect does possess some, but even if we gave it to you, what use would it be? Xianliu Dao crystal was an extremely rare celestial material, only formed in certain parts of ancient forbidden zones. Its primary use: to aid in breaking through to the Grand Luo realm. Zhechuan's words made his meaning clear. Jiang Chengshuan's current realm wasn't yet worthy of such a supreme treasure. But Jiang simply smiled, neither angry nor hurried. Instead, he stared into Zhechuan's eyes, his gaze sharp as a blade. And then, his aura surged violently in that instant, shaking the entire hall to its core. But it disappeared just as quickly, vanishing without a trace. Even so, in that fleeting moment, everyone had sensed a terrifying pressure. Though they couldn't fully gauge Jiang's exact realm, one thing was certain: his strength surpassed them. The hall fell utterly silent. Even Jerry closed his mouth, casting a look of dread and shock toward Jiang Chengshuan. As for Zhechuan, his face froze, because he alone had clearly sensed Jiang Chengshuan's cultivation. It was peak golden immortal, the same level as him. Chapter 1939, Immortal Treasure Acquired, Entering the Forbidden Zone, Part 2. This discovery unsettled Elder Zhechuan deeply. He could hardly believe it. He had assumed Jiang Chengshuan was at most a mid-stage golden immortal, or at best approaching late stage. Who exactly was this youth? For a moment, countless thoughts flashed through Zhechuan's mind. In all his years of cultivation, he had never encountered someone with such terrifying strength, even within the mighty Zheshan celestial sect. How about it, Elder Zhechuan, will you grant this request? Only when Jiang Chengshuan spoke with a calm smile did the oppressive silence break, awakening everyone. Elder Zhechuan's eyes flickered, and under the astonished gazes, he surprisingly did not haggle further but nodded in agreement. This soul beast tide, may Dao friend not disappoint the Zheshan sect. With apparent high hopes for Jiang, Zhechuan said slowly, then gave a glance to Jerry. Jerry frowned, rose from his throne and left the hall. A moment later, Jerry returned, carrying a palm-sized cauldron-like container which he placed before Jiang Chengshuan. The treasure emanated astonishing immortal light that refused to dissipate, solidifying into form. Now and then, subtle energies leaked out, making it impossible for those present to ignore, drawing their minds along with it. This is the Xianliu Dao crystal you requested. At Zhechuan's complicated words, Jiang's eyes shone brightly. In full view of the others, admiring and shocked stares, he eagerly stored the container and bowed toward Zhechuan, smiling. I will not fail the expectations of Elder Zhechuan. Jiang spoke with genuine sincerity. After all, Obtaining such a rare celestial material so easily had left him surprised and delighted. Originally, he had only been testing whether Zheshan's sect truly possessed the breakthrough resource he needed. He had clearly underestimated the sect's depth. It seemed Zheshan was truly going all out to quell this forbidden zone disturbance. He definitely had come to the right place. After settling all conditions, Jiang Chengxuan and 3 others followed the forces of Zheshan's celestial sect, led by Zhechuan and Jerry. Without delay, they immediately marched toward the deep earth forbidden zone. Located on the southern edge of Zheshan's territory, it was a place shrouded in perpetual mist that blocked the sun. On the surface, the zone seemed only 10,000 li in size, but in truth, those familiar with its inner workings knew it was far larger. The space inside twisted and warped, with laws overturned, a perilous realm impossible to measure by ordinary means. In the void, Jiang Chengxuan stood alongside Elder Yunqi. Behind them, Zheshan's vast army stretched endlessly like a sea of people, reflecting immortal light and mist. Both in number and quality, this force far exceeded the scale of the last extinction war against the arterial blood sect launched by the Yunlin immortal clan. Even their immortal treasures and armors were of high grade, with each soldier equipped. Click, with such power, the arterial blood sect would fall in half a day. Elder Yunqi admired aloud, his eyes full of envy. Jiang Chengxuan nodded in agreement. Without golden immortals intervening, such an army could easily crush the arterial blood demon realm, with no city able to resist. If golden immortals joined the battle, the destruction would come even faster. So this is the forbidden zone, truly bizarre. I cannot sense any trace of natural Tao here. I thought I'd never enter a forbidden zone again in my lifetime, but here I am. Nearby, Hao Shen Daxian and Xianzhang Daxian exchanged heavy, solemn glances, their earlier lightheartedness gone. When facing the forbidden zone for real, no one could feel anything positive, even golden immortals. In the distance lay a place unfathomably twisted and turbulent, chaos roiling, with ominous energy spilling forth. Roar of roar. Before the army could advance, beastly roars echoed from within the zone, shaking heaven and earth, stirring the darkness like a boiling sea of molten rock. Terrifying might swept the surroundings, dimming the sky for thousands of li, while demonic sounds filled the air. The soul beast tide is about to erupt. Quickly, enter the zone. In an instant at the vanguard, Zhechuan's eyes sharpened and his voice thundered. With a command, the massive Zheshan army erupted in battle fervor. The war was about to ignite. Behind Jiang and the others, a towering war fortress appeared, blotting out the sky. It resembled a monumental jade stele covered in intricate totems, radiating profound power. As immortal energy surged, the fortress lit up, glowing with shining light. Mysterious forces radiated from it, imprinting complex battle runes onto the soldiers. This was a technique the Zheshan sect had cultivated over years to counter forbidden zone hazards. With this protection, even ordinary immortals could resist the zone's corrupting influence, greatly enhancing the army's strength. Attack! At once, Zhechuan and Jerry's eyes blazed as they shouted fiercely. Suddenly, golden cosmic silhouettes of golden immortals burst forth, blanketing the void as their immortal power rampaged. Both wore ancient-looking golden immortal armors, yet their presence was formidable. Peak golden immortal, late-stage golden immortal. Feeling Zhechuan and Jerry's overwhelming aura, Elder Yunqi and others gasped. The next moment, both surged forward, their treasures flashing as they struck the deep earth forbidden zone. Their attacks blasted a path through the twisted barrier, revealing the zone's true visage. Beyond the mist stretched an endless, boiling swamp, with ominous dark energy spurting skyward as columns of fire. Farther within, rolling mountains rose and fell beneath crimson stars that flickered along eerie, twisting orbits in the darkness. Rumble! Zhechuan and Jerry's blows exploded inside the zone, opening a vast abyss. Countless whirlpools formed, tearing at immortal energy from sky to earth. Roar! From the depths came a furious roar. Several red moons rose overhead as a blood-red rift tore the sky, spewing a stream of blazing scarlet, aimed at the army. A vague outline of a monstrous beast took shape, provoked and striking back immediately. HMPH. Zhechuan's gaze darkened with fury. He summoned a spear from thin air, condensing supreme golden immortal power and thrust it through the heavens. The two clashed across thousands of li. The terrifying golden immortal might shook the world. Space melted, the void shattered, stars ignited into roaring flames. Boom! Instantly, a cataclysmic blast roared through the air. Thunder split the sky, blood spread wide, chaotic flows swallowed heaven and earth, like an apocalyptic scene. A titanic storm rose, shaking the dense immortal army. The steel-shaped war fortress was pushed back, moving like a mountain range in motion. What terrifying power! The spectacle made Xianxia and the others gravely serious, pupils dilated. Facing peak golden immortals like Jade, and with unknown forces attacking so quickly inside the zone. It was clear why the Xianxia sect was desperate to suppress this disturbance. If such a revolt were allowed to spread, the resulting catastrophe would be unimaginable. Everyone engage. With urgency, Jerry shouted at Xianxia and the others. They all drew a deep breath, their bodies trembling as golden immortal cosmic energy manifested, forming a starry nebula that blotted out the sky. No hesitation remained. They followed Jade as 6 golden immortals launched their assault simultaneously. Chapter 1940, Breaking into the Forbidden Zone, Hard Clash with the Beast Tide, Part 1. The terrifying power of the 6 golden immortals was enough to overturn heaven and earth. Within 10,000 li around them, an overwhelming pressure descended, making the entire environment unbearably oppressive. The boundless golden immortal cosmos stretched in all directions, blotting out the sky and turning the area around the Forbidden Zone into a vast cosmic battlefield. Golden immortal power surged wildly on the 6 of them as they unleashed explosive attacks toward the deep Earth Forbidden Zone. Woo! Instantly, the war horns of the Xianxia celestial sect's immortal army thundered across the universe. Countless disciples clad in armor inscribed with runes spread out like stars across the sky, expanding in all directions. Their mission was not to enter the Forbidden Zone itself, but to hold the perimeter, preventing soul beasts fleeing from the uprising inside from escaping. After all, the Forbidden Zone would soon become a battlefield for powerful beings. Any attempt by cultivators of their level to interfere would result in them being crushed like grains of sand. Rumble! With deafening explosions, Xianxia and the other 5 broke through the boundary wall of the deep Earth Forbidden Zone simultaneously and stormed inside. Just as predicted, the world instantly stretched and expanded. It felt as if they had shrunk by thousands of times. Roar! The beast roars became even more thunderous, echoing through the cosmos and shaking the stars themselves. In an instant, a huge mass of ominous darkness swept toward them from the edge of the sky like a raging storm, twisting space and suppressing everything in its path. This was the strange and ominous force Xianxia was familiar with. But at the moment of the deep Earth Forbidden Zone's uprising, this force was far more terrifying than before. The Tao laws around them were swallowed and distorted. All things dissolved, leaving only the most extreme power of destruction. Suppress it for me. Seeing this, Jade was the first to act. He roared, summoning a celestial ruler weapon. This weapon contained pure spatial Tao force, and once deployed, the heavens and earth seemed to be pulled closer, collapsing continuously toward his position. The incoming ominous force was squeezed like 2 invisible hands clamping down on it. Rumble! However, the ominous force was extremely resilient. Though crushed momentarily, it soon erupted with renewed power, continuously consuming and corroding the celestial ruler. Deploy! At this moment, Jade acted without hesitation. His aura of peak golden immortal burst forth. His spear pierced the stars once more. A spot of white light grew at the spear tip, ravenously devouring the ominous force. In an instant, a white line cut across the sky, shining on the storm of ominous energy. Then came a deafening explosion as countless dark shadows were severed and shattered. This strike continued forward, cutting through the endless darkness and charging to its edge. Hiss, so this is the power of a peak golden immortal, how terrifying. Everyone, including Xianxia, gasped in shock. The calm and seemingly indifferent elder Jade had unleashed thunderous power, his hair and beard bristling like an enraged dragon lion, a stark contrast to the bargaining figure seen earlier. Roar! Clearly, this clash was just a test. The true soul beast tide had not yet erupted. Otherwise, Xianxia and the others wouldn't have been allowed here to exploit the Xianxia celestial sect's generosity. The white light then plunged deeper into the darkness, triggering an angry roar. A red glow flickered and instantly extinguished it. Buzz, 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 buzz. Suddenly, countless crimson moons seemed to rise in the sky, accompanied by a buzzing demonic hum. Invisible blood energy radiated from every inch of the void, making all the hairs on their bodies stand on end. These are remnants of souls drawn by the forbidden zone uprising. Be careful. Ji Chuan warned immediately, though in truth no one dared to ignore it. Jiang Chengxuan and the others quickly activated their immortal power to shield themselves. Sizzle! In the void, the invisible corrosion ate away with crackling sounds. Space melted like an ice sheet dissolving. Amidst this eerie scene, dark shapes abruptly appeared in the distance, interwoven with blood light, tangled like chaotic lines, sketching out their distorted true forms. They're coming! Gradually, from the darkness within the forbidden zone, vicious ancient beast souls appeared. Those lines depicted their original forms, though more blurred, sinister, and monstrous. Under the forbidden zone's Tao force, these ancient beast remnants were summoned across space-time, twisting and merging with ominous energy to form new life. They had no consciousness, controlled solely by the ominous force, driven only to destroy and devour everything in sight. Moreover, under Jiang Chengxuan and the others' serious gazes, the dark shapes kept gathering, completely filling their vision, clearly countless in number. In response, Jiang Chengxuan silently condensed his immortal power and unleashed the 10,000 Ages manifest sacred scripture, which transformed into sharp blades floating around him, ready to strike. Hao Shen Daxian summoned his immortal treasure, a judge's brush, whose hairs were stained with a mysterious substance. It radiated immortal light and formidable aura. At the same time, the newly acquired dragon blood mystic mirror was summoned, floating behind him with blood energy rippling. Xianxia Daxian unleashed a mystical Tao method, with flowing streams like the Milky Way, wrapping around him like dragons and snakes, ever-changing. Roar! Though late without warning, a roar shattered the heavens and earth. Chapter 1941. Invading the Forbidden Zone, fierce clash with the beast tied to. Chaos surged violently as countless lines converged headlong toward Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. Space shattered, stars fell, and countless remnants of ancient ferocious beasts, half real, half ethereal, rushed forward like a roaring mountain and sea. The entire world instantly became overwhelmingly chaotic. Invisible blood chi and ominous forces ran wild, engulfing the entire Forbidden Zone and submerging Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Annihilate them all, leave not a single one alive. Elder Ji Chuan took the lead, his battle armor clanking as he shouted with a booming voice at the sky-darkening mass of ancient beast remnants. His spear slanted toward the horizon like a meteor defying the heavens. Kill! Ji Rai followed closely, refusing to retreat. His golden immortal power surged explosively as true solar flames blazed across his body, transforming into a towering fiery tornado. Charge! Naturally, Jiang Chengxuan and the others could not stand idly by. He nodded to Elder Yunxi, and the four unleashed their divine arts. Their golden immortal power soared to its peak, the might of their immortal treasures shaking the heavens. At this moment, Elders Hao Shen and Xian Jiang finally realized the terrifying extent of Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation, far surpassing their own. They had assumed he was only mid-stage golden immortal, slightly stronger than them, but his power exceeded all expectations. With a thunderous roar, Jiang Chengxuan and the others charged into the heart of the beast's soul tide. Their divine arts and immortal treasures bombarded the roaring ancient ferocious beasts, who bared teeth and claws, tearing through the void fearlessly, devouring everything. Jiang Chengxuan noticed that the ancient ferocious beast remnants, once reforged, no longer resembled their original forms. They appeared as grotesque, random assemblies lacking order or beauty. Some had 3 different heads, others countless claws. Heads grew from armpits or backs, enormous black wings sprouted beast heads. A pitch-black ominous aura clung like a membrane, fusing these grotesque limbs. Uneasy flames burned within, making the entire sky-darkening beast tide resemble a sea of fire, its aura soaring, distorting and melting space itself, and causing collapse-like phenomena. With deafening thunderclaps, surging immortal light and ominous flames enveloped the Forbidden Zone. The terrifying fire even burst beyond it, warping surrounding Tao laws. Disciples of the Zhitiang Chuan sect were shocked and hurriedly unleashed divine arts to extinguish the leaking ominous power. Eternal manifested sacred scripture, deploy. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan blasted into the beast tide. The power of the eternal manifested sacred scripture wrapped him heavily, like a cannonball crashing into an ancient ferocious beast remnant. a furious roar shattered the void, and a tremendous force slammed Jiang Chengxuan, overturning him along with the surrounding heavens and earth. It felt like a meteor shower striking him head-on. Each ancient beast remnant inherited its world-shaping power. Their souls, forged in primordial wilderness, could tear through the heavens. Many ominous colossal beasts were fused from multiple remnants. Even with Jiang Chengxuan's protective scripture shield, he was forced to retreat continuously, carving an incredibly deep rift through the darkness. Damn, we can't clash head-on. We must fight and retreat, avoid their sharpest edge and wait for Elder Zichuan's intervention. Elders Hao Shen, Xianjiang, and others were shaken and pushed back step by step. They barely managed to activate their immortal treasures, flickering in the void as they skirmished. At their cultivation level, standing firm against the beast tide was impossible. One wrong step inside could cost their lives. Only Jiang Chengxuan and the two elders, Ji Chuan and Ji Rai, stood firm amidst the first wave, unleashing earth-shaking immortal power to intercept as many ferocious beasts as possible. Clad in battle armor and wielding spear and immortal ruler, Ji Chuan and Ji Rai cut through the sky and earth, repelling nearby ominous beast remnants like moving stars. The void erupted with impacts as their golden immortal power split the bodies of ominous beasts, occasionally igniting all-consuming flames like volcanic eruptions. Their eyes bloodshot, seeing nothing but twisting Dao laws and beast corpses. Their immortal treasures waved afterimages, and battle armor radiated brilliance to resist the ominous force. Though both were top-tier elders of the mighty Zhitian Chuan sect, the beast soul tide's power exceeded expectations. Even combined, they cleared only a small area. Attempts to break through and open a gap were repelled. In Ji Chuan and Ji Rai's plan, all six should act together to open a breach, then penetrate deeper into the forbidden zone to suppress the beast soul tide's source. No good, we can't break through. We must stabilize the front line first. Ji Chuan's expression darkened. He shouted gravely, sensing ominous failure. If the formation broke and the beast tide breached their lines, countless ancient ferocious beast remnants would flood out, dooming the Zhitian Chuan sect's forces. Suddenly, elsewhere in the vast beast tide, a strange humming erupted. A dazzling divine lotus took root amid cosmic phenomena and bloomed. Vast immortal power surged from it like an expanding nebula, pushing surrounding ominous beasts to the brink of collapse. Before everyone's astonished eyes, a brilliant golden light pierced sky and earth, cleaving a path through the dark space with overwhelming force. Terrifying sharpness and immense immortal power flowed like an unstoppable torrent, slashing through twisted ancient beasts. Several grotesque beasts were pierced through, deep wounds exploding. Ominous power spat into the void, causing chaotic erosion. Hiss, it's him, big brother, this. Ji Rai was stunned, eyes wide. He clearly saw Jiang Chengxuan's figure, like a god, at the power's source. His overwhelming aura rivaled Ji Chuan's. How could he not be shocked? Even Ji Chuan narrowed his eyes sharply. Since this young man is willing to lend his strength, we'll seize this chance to open a breakthrough. Without hesitation, Ji Chuan ordered Ji Rai, who understood instantly. The two transformed into beams of light, rushing through the beast tide toward Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan sensed their presence and understood their plan. Behind him, the nine wondrous Bodhi lotus lamp revolved. The eternal manifested sacred scripture surged. In his hand, the primordial chaos sword condensed late-stage golden immortal power, ready to strike. Burning immortal power and Dao laws swirled fiercely around him, dissipating all ominous energy. Strike together, open the breakthrough. Ji Chuan and Ji Rai arrived, their immortal power at its peak. Their immortal treasures stirred restlessly, the ultimate force pressing down, threatening to collapse space itself. In an instant, the three, two at golden immortal complete realm and one at late stage, unleashed their thunderous techniques in perfect unison. Their immortal power merged, forming a world-shattering, heaven-annihilating force. Chapter 1942, Deep into the Rebellion, System Task 1. Within the deep Earth Forbidden Zone, tens of thousands of miles had already transformed into a vast sea of ominous darkness. Countless remnants of ancient ferocious beasts twisted their grotesque faces and unleashed earth-shaking power, like mountains charging forward, the heavens collapsing, thunder and fire intertwined, and demonic sounds swirling, overturning the world itself. Within the territory of the Zhitian Chuan sect, the Forbidden Zone, originally spanning 10,000 miles, continuously writhed and expanded outward bit by bit. Ominous rays of evil light shot crazily from the mist, reflecting the despairing scene of the beast's soul tied inside the zone, terrifying countless disciples of the sect. For the Xianxia sect, this was an extremely perilous moment. For tens of thousands of years, they had rarely faced such a trial. Even the sect's golden, immortal elders' lives hung in the balance. Only those inside the sect understood how critical this moment was. One slight misstep could bring devastating damage to the entire sect. However, Jiang Chengxuan and the others were not from Xianxia's sect, and thus could not fully feel this oppressive urgency like a black cloud pressing down on the city. Maintain distance, suppress the expansion of the forbidden zone. Seeing the forbidden area writhing and expanding uncontrollably, a senior elder of Xianxia's sect commanded. Thousands upon thousands of sect disciples hastily channeled immortal power, summoned their immortal treasures, and their totems glowed brightly, forming a human wall that suppressed the forbidden zone's continuous anomalies with their dharma power. Roar! At that moment, abruptly, the writhing boundary of the forbidden zone changed violently. Shadows leapt out like fish, breaching the defensive line. It was the bizarre remnants of ancient ferocious beasts charging forward. Trouble, beast souls are sneaking out in the chaos. Suppress them immediately. The elders of Xianxia's sect's eyes widened, hair standing on end, shouting thunderously. Aya! Yet despite their vigilance, the soul beasts infused with ominous power struck unexpectedly, leaping beyond the forbidden zone boundary and directly attacking the frontline disciples. The ominous power was bizarre and fierce, instantly corroding their strength and gnawing at their bodies. Many disciples fell on the spot, bodies torn to pieces or sucked dry into mummified husks, turning to dust. Junior brother, senior brother. Witnessing their former comrades slain by hideous, twisted soul beasts, many disciples were filled with fury and fear. Alongside the elders unleashing their immortal power, they quickly adjusted formations and launched a fierce counterattack. Instantly, black clouds exploded in the void, immortal power surged, divine arts roiled, and countless forces bombarded the soul beasts. Meanwhile, numerous soul beasts slipped through the forbidden zone edges and charged into the army to engage in fierce battle. Although their strength was not high, making them escapees, they possessed ominous power that distorted Tao laws, making them terrifying to immortals with laws-resistant killing power. Thus, brutal battles broke out simultaneously inside and outside the forbidden zone. At the same time, inside the forbidden zone, the combined strike from Jiang Chengxuan, Ji Chuan, and Ji Rai unleashed terrifying might, approaching the primordial chaos level. The forbidden zone brightened like daylight. The ominous darkness was cleaved open like an abyss. A massive flood surged forth, tearing through the twisted domain, ripping apart the sky and connecting worlds. Wherever the strike passed, nothing could stand. All ancient ferocious beasts before it instantly disintegrated and shattered. The entire forbidden zone trembled under the weight of this strike. Excellent. So this is the foundation of Xian immortal sect. What exactly is the origin of that Lord of Vastness to be so terrifying? The world-shattering attack thrilled and shocked Elder Yunxi, Elder Hao Shen, and Elder Xian Jiang. Though they were also golden immortals, they felt powerless to resist such might. Looks like we must give our all as well, otherwise we may not complete the task. Elder Hao Shen murmured to himself, worried that Ji Chuan might reduce their rewards if he thought they hadn't helped much. Thus, amid the chaotic world, the three no longer held back, unleashing their divine arts and charging headlong into the ominous, bizarre ancient beast remnants to hold back the beast tide's impact. Jiang Chengxuan's crucial strike had turned the tide from near defeat to a favorable outcome. Go deeper into the forbidden zone, suppress the source of the beast's soul tide. At once, seeing their combined strike achieve great results, usually composed Ji Chuan grew excited. Looking toward the breached path ahead, he did not hesitate, shouting thunderously as he reignited his late-stage golden immortal might and charged along the strike's trajectory. Then I shall go, you stay here and hold back the beast tide. At this moment, Ji Rai, Ji Chuan's loyal supporter, clad in gleaming armor, was about to follow. However, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly appeared before him and calmly said no. Hearing this, Ji Rai frowned, glancing at Jiang Chengxuan with suspicion and some dissatisfaction. Yet sensing Jiang Chengxuan's overwhelming aura, which surpassed his own, he dared not argue further. Going into the forbidden zone to suppress the source was clearly more dangerous and critical, so naturally, the stronger the better. But they could not all go. lest the beast's soul tide burst out of the forbidden zone and bring immeasurable losses to Xianxia sect. Chapter 1943, Deep into the Rebellion, System Task 2. As Jiang Chengxuan spoke, Ji Rai fell silent for a moment before responding stiffly. Very well, I will obey Elder Ji Chuan's orders. Jiang Chengxuan nodded indifferently. The aura of a golden immortal complete surged around him as he swiftly followed the direction Ji Chuan charged toward. Ji Rai, unable to accompany, unleashed the power of his immortal treasure to blast the ancient ferocious beast tide behind him. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Chengxuan caught up to Ji Chuan. Riding the momentum of their previous strike, they sped deep into the forbidden zone, traveling countless miles as the heavens darkened and the ominous aura thickened, becoming almost tangible. Ji Chuan glanced back and detected Jiang Chengxuan's formidable presence. Without a word, he understood everything. Clearly, Jiang Chengxuan was a man of principle. Since he had accepted the grand gift of the Xianxia sect, he intended to prove his worth. Moreover, having just broken through to the golden immortal complete realm, he was eager to test his strength. Ding! Suddenly, in the cold, oppressive void, a chilling voice echoed. Jiang Chengxuan was taken aback, his eyes flashing sharply. This familiar voice was not from the system, so who else could it be? Host, please complete the achievement. Suppress the beast's soul tide. Just as expected, at this crucial moment, the system fanned the flames of Jiang Chengxuan's mission once again. Though he had no intention of giving up halfway, he had always left himself an out. But this task suddenly elevated the importance of the current operation. No need to think twice. Jiang Chengxuan knew the system's generosity and subtlety well. The rewards it offered would surely surpass those from the Zhitian sect. Perhaps this would become a vital opportunity to break into the great Tao golden immortal realm. Divine aid, Jiang Chengxuan muttered excitedly under his breath. Something wrong. Ji Chuan noticed the slight change in Jiang Chengxuan's expression and thought he had discovered something. He turned to ask. Jiang Chengxuan quickly dispelled the thought, changing the topic with a faint smile. This is my first battle since reaching golden immortal complete. Naturally, I feel a bit nervous. Ji Chuan nodded approvingly at Jiang Chengxuan's mindset and encouraged him. Lord of Vastness, this battle is perilous. We must advance and retreat as one, and absolutely suppress the source of this rebellion. Agreed. Without further discussion, the lingering energy of their combined strike faded, and the ominous darkness surged back from all directions. A massive group of ancient ferocious beast remnants used the darkness as cover, and had unknowingly surrounded them. Suddenly, a giant abyssal maw appeared ahead, devouring sky and earth, taking the form of a colossal ape, rushing to attack. Among the ancient ferocious beasts, the ape clan was once a prestigious race. Each member had battled fiercely, overturning mountains and seas, renowned as battle saints among the ancient tribes. This particular remnant's aura was so fierce it rivaled golden immortal complete. Its shadowy body flickered in the darkness, mixed with dragon tails, eagle claws, spider eyes, a chaotic fusion that chilled the heart. Even Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan's expressions hardened. Zhitian Primal Slash. Both were elites among golden immortals, anticipating such a sudden ambush from the ancient beast remnants. Ji Chuan took point, roaring as a golden immortal universe swirled behind him. His complete golden immortal might poured into his spear, sweeping forward. A fierce white light erupted like a horizon in the void. The spear's sharp edge severed the ominous darkness, charging toward the ape's head. Roar! The beast's eyes flamed with ominous fire. Within its abyssal maw, dark power coalesced, a twisting vortex swirling like a storm. It unleashed a blast of black flood hundreds of feet wide toward Ji Chuan's spear. Boom! The two forces collided instantly, sending shockwaves through sky and earth, shattering the forbidden zone anew. Cracks splintered the ground, and even the great Tao was eroded. The ominous power was bizarre, and could ignore even golden immortal level Tao laws, like a bane to the immortal way. In this clash, part of the chasm Ji Chuan had carved out was swallowed whole, gaining little advantage. Eternal manifested sacred scripture, deploy. Countless ominous remnants appeared from all directions, charging to attack. Twisted, grotesque faces surrounded Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan, forming a bizarre barrier. Jiang Chengxuan waved his hand, manifesting a golden immortal universe no less brilliant than Ji Chuan's. Golden suns rose behind him, surging upward against the heavens and shining in the void. In the next instant, they exploded before each grotesque beast's head, unleashing terrifying might. The fearful immortal power collapsed space, shattering Tao laws into fragments. Void holes appeared everywhere, tearing the world apart. A sacred aura spread across the land, burning fiercely like a galaxy of stars. For a moment the ominous darkness was suppressed, leaving a strange sight of half light, half dark. Though only two, Ji Chuan and Jiang Chengxuan fought like a divine demon army battling to the end of the world. "Kill that beast quickly," Ji Chuan shouted, reigniting battle. His mind shifted, and his golden immortal universe rotated, forming a totemic seal. Starry light flickered as immense immortal power flowed. Runes rained like drops, condensing onto him and his spear. His aura surged, seemingly opposing the forbidden zone itself. This was evidently a method the Zhitiang Chuan sect had developed against the forbidden zone. With this power, Ji Chuan's combat strength against ominous beasts soared dramatically. "Kill!" A cold gleam appeared first, then the spear shot out like a dragon. Ji Chuan and his spear became one, instantly breaking through the ominous flame curtain, rushing toward the ape's grotesque head. Jiang Chengxuan followed closely, wielding the primordial chaos sword, reflecting fragmented stars. Countless beams of star light shot forward, piercing and dissolving everything in their path. Two layers of destructive power intertwined, two golden immortal completes combining their might, releasing world-shattering force that tore the black sky apart, unstoppable. Yet the enormous ominous beast did not retreat. Fear was unknown to it now. Its dragon tail swept, its massive body burning with ominous power like a dark star, shooting endless light that enveloped it and surged into the immortal light. Boom! Violent power erupted like thunder meeting fire, raging in all directions. The ominous power gradually eroded away, consumed by their combined might. Within 100 miles, Tao laws vanished. But Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan's joint power was far more terrifying. The ancient beast exhausted all its strength, closing in on them with its grotesque maw wide open, still trying to devour them. Yet with spear and sword relentlessly thrust forward, the huge twisted head was pierced and shattered, leaving a gaping, grotesque hole. However, the fire in the beast's eyes did not extinguish. It collapsed like a mountain falling, but the ominous flames on its body still blazed fiercely. Attracted by the bloodshed, countless ancient beasts surged forward, lunging onto the corpse with jaws open wide. Unexpectedly, the decaying corpse rapidly rotted before their eyes, like a muddy swamp that devoured the beasts climbing upon it, absorbing their strength. Chapter 1944, Forbidden Zone Secrets, Blood and Flesh of 10,000 Beasts 1. The remnant carcass of the ancient ferocious beast had now transformed into an incredibly bizarre spectacle. Its corpse had become a chaotic swamp, where countless lingering souls were irresistibly drawn, falling into the mire and struggling continuously. Each of these remnants was already extremely strange, a mixture of various ferocious beasts' features. Now they were crushed together, faces and limbs piled up like the bodies in a mass grave. Yet beneath this grotesque heap, the fatal wound that Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan had jointly torn open gradually healed. Using other ancient beast remnants as nourishment, it slowly regenerated into an even more bizarre entity. Seeing this, both Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan were taken aback, but their reactions were remarkably consistent. Without hesitation, they once again unleashed their divine powers, hammering that strange mass relentlessly. At the same time, the immortal light around them surged, breaking through the omnipresent ominous darkness inside the Forbidden Zone. In unison, they sped deeper into the Forbidden Zone. No matter how bizarre the ominous beast souls were, Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan had no time or reason to pay attention. The urgent task was to reach the source of the rebellion and suppress it. Once that was done, all danger would be resolved naturally. As for the beast tide that was left to Ji Rai, Hao Shen Daxian and others, this was the reason for summoning them. Originally, Jiang Chengxuan was assigned to block the beast tide, but now he belonged to the team suppressing the source. Woo-woo. In the blink of an eye, as all the ominous beast souls were drawn in, Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan moved forward one after another, plunging countless miles deeper into the Forbidden Zone. Gradually, the piercing sound of demonic howls became omnipresent. The darkness grew deeper and thicker, as if they had entered the bottom of the earth, where no light existed. Even space and time began to distort along the way. Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan, advancing forward, often felt a vague dizziness. At times their forms flickered, only to realize they had returned to the same spot. This is the power behind the Forbidden Zone's rebellion. Jiang Chengxuan muttered gravely. This force had reached a terrifying level, transcending space and time, approaching the great Tao realm. Fortunately, it was only an unconscious force, existing in the void without targeting anything deliberately. The deeper they ventured, the more twisted the world became. Mountains hung upside down like tumors in the sky. Broken stars rose from the ground, flowing backward to reconstruct themselves, only to collapse and fall again. These phenomena were all results of rewritten Tao laws. Often, mysterious treasures would be born amid these anomalies, attracting countless immortals like moths to a flame. Of course, many were also consumed, and became part of the Forbidden Zone. Suddenly, a sense of emptiness came over Jiang Chengxuan. The world before his eyes suddenly felt less oppressive. He could see some faint, grayish terrain. It was as if they had passed through an underground tunnel and arrived at a nest. "This is the stable zone within the Forbidden Zone," Ji Chuan said solemnly, his expression serious and tinged with awe. "Here, due to certain reasons, the Tao laws are relatively stable." Jiang Chengxuan could tell that these certain reasons were something worthy of reverence. His curiosity immediately sparked, despite the urgency of the mission. "What reasons?" he asked. Ji Chuan pondered for a moment. Unsure whether to avoid wasting time or because he trusted Jiang Chengxuan somewhat, he explained. "Some powerful figures have laid hidden plans within the Forbidden Zone, waiting for opportunities." Though simple, this statement was like thunderclaps to Jiang Chengxuan, shaking him all over. Powerful figures. To be called that by Ji Chuan meant entities of unimaginable stature. They had set contingencies, waiting for opportunities, inside the Forbidden Zone. Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan felt he was touching secrets beyond imagination. These secrets concerned the very origins of the ancient realm's Tao legacy, knowledge only accessible to those who had reached golden immortal complete. Rumble! Before Jiang Chengxuan could think further, the grayish world began to tremble. Roaring echoes filled the space. Hiss! Suddenly, a crimson bloodlight flashed ahead. The dark sky tore open like a gruesome, gaping wound. Clatter, clatter. A massive blood and flesh poured out, falling like a waterfall. It crashed chaotically onto the ground, making eerie noises, spraying pools of blood. The flesh piled wildly, rapidly forming a grotesque wall visible to the naked eye. This blood-red wall completely separated Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan from the distance ahead. Immediately, the blood color and ominous aura returned, summoning more ominous beast souls attracted to the wall. They merged and twisted together with the blood wall itself. Roar, hiss, screech. The small space filled with the howls of ancient ferocious beasts. Before Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan, a beast wall composed of countless ancient ferocious beast remnants suddenly appeared. It was as if an invisible giant hand had crushed and squeezed together the flesh and blood of many beasts. This scene made Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan grimace, their hair standing on end. Boom, boom, boom. Before long, the beast wall blocked their path. From it, twisted limbs sliced through the void, claws, fangs, tails, and horns slashing fiercely. Chapter 1945, Secrets of the Forbidden Zone, Flesh of 10,000 Beasts 2. Mixed with ominous forces and splattered with crimson flesh, the terrifying power distorted heaven and earth as it crashed down. In an instant, the blood-colored, dim world was filled with wildly dancing limbs and countless chaotic afterimages. This horrifying strength easily shattered space, triggering turbulent flows that tore open numerous rifts. These ancient ferocious beasts all possessed dreadful power, capable of breaking through myriad laws with a single strike, especially now that they had regained flesh as their support. Even Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan dared not confront them head-on. Instead, they relied on their body movement techniques, weaving through the massive severed limbs to dodge attacks. Buzz, buzz. In an instant, the immortal spear and the primordial chaos sword unleashed their full sharpness. The cosmic remnants swelled violently with the storm, the celestial river flowing backward, erupting in blinding, mysterious light. Some limbs were severed by Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan, erupting huge blood waterfalls like scarlet flowers blooming on a tree. Enough. But this only further enraged the will of the beast wall. Various beast heads glared furiously, their pupils or mouths quickly condensing ominous power, shooting and spewing forth. Raindrop-like torrents twisted like dragons and snakes, shooting toward the two, forming an iron curtain that sealed everything off. Coupled with countless frenzied limbs, Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan were left with nowhere to dodge. Every inch of space was occupied by dreadful power and ominous aura, collapsing and shattering. Break through it. Jiang Chengxuan's eyes sharpened, his heart stern. Letting out a fierce shout, he advanced instead of retreating. The power of the perfected golden immortal realm burst forth. He merged completely with the primordial chaos sword, becoming a sword light that slashed at the breaths of countless ancient ferocious beasts. Wherever it passed, it left a layer of cosmic remnant sword intent. Any remains touched by this sword intent were hacked until their flesh was shredded, scales fell off, revealing chilling white bones. Good. Seeing this, Ji Chuan didn't hesitate either. He poured his immortal power into the immortal spear. The runes on his body and himself spun as a dragon shadow manifested behind him. His immortal power surged, rushing straight toward the beast wall. Pache, pache, pache. In a flash, their vision was almost completely obscured by blood and flesh as they pierced through countless remains. They blocked the erosion of the ominous power, crashing upon the beast wall. Boom, boom, boom. The next moment, heaven and earth trembled. Stars fell like rain. The storm's aftershock stirred the gray and hazy world. The beast wall was swallowed by immortal power. Countless waving limbs shattered and exploded into a sky full of bones and blood. However, as the might dissipated, Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan's expressions grew serious. They did not break through the obstacle as easily as before. They found themselves deep within a concave in the beast wall. Before them lay densely packed white bones and various scales that reflected dazzling immortal light and flowed with different Tao forces. All of these were the hardest parts from the ancient ferocious beasts, deeply embedded in the flesh, forming a defensive line that blocked Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan's combined strike. Rip! Then an even stranger scene appeared. Before the two could react, the broken beast wall behind them rapidly regenerated flesh at an incredible speed, healing in the blink of an eye. Countless white bones and scales began to writhe, crushing toward Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan. It was as if they had been swallowed into the beast wall's stomach. All around them were stomach walls ready to crush and digest them. Countless ominous forces poured out like gastric acid from the blood and bones, invading the two. In an instant, the situation became extremely perilous, with dangers looming from all directions. We've been tricked by this bizarre thing, Ji Chuan said gravely, feeling they had fallen into the beast wall's trap. But there was no time to think much. Facing the crushing scales from all sides, they had no choice but to summon the golden immortal universe, transforming around their bodies into a barrier to resist. At the same time, their immortal treasures struck continuously at the scales. Sword intent streaked forth, radiating brilliant fire and lightning. But inside the extremely thick beast wall, these layers of scales were countless. Their hardness was so great that even immortal treasures could only break them bit by bit. Despite Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan's relentless assaults and their immortal treasures might displayed at its peak, they could only chip away small gaps, and soon those would be covered again by dense scales. The immense force of the writhing flesh shook Jiang Chengxuan, every moment feeling like being struck, his protective power trembling. Coupled with the erosion of ominous forces, their resistance seemed almost ineffective. HMPH, wanting to swallow us whole, quite the appetite. Feeling the increasingly oppressive pressure, Jiang Chengxuan's fighting spirit burned stronger rather than fading. Nine Wonder Bodhi Lotus Lamp activate. He no longer held back, summoning the Nine Wonder Bodhi Lotus Lamp again. A divine lotus appeared out of thin air inside the flesh, opening a world. Majestic immortal power surged, rapidly condensing in this space as if solid. Vast immortal power poured into Jiang Chengxuan's immortal body, raising his aura step by step. Within the golden immortal universe, star movements and energy flows created astonishing changes in energy. Buzz! Mysterious chanting and humming echoed, golden light blossomed and golden runes appeared. Under Jiang Chengxuan's control, they transformed into countless giant palms attempting to hold up the sky. Their sacred aura even suppressed the ominous forces. For a time, even the beast wall's power was firmly held back, unable to shake them or even slightly pushed back. Seeing this, Ji Chuan was astonished. In his intuition, he felt Jiang Chengxuan's power might even surpass his own. Xianxia Talisman, Zheshan Seal activate. At this moment, Ji Chuan realized the critical turning point had arrived. No longer holding back, he consecutively summoned two golden immortal treasures. One was a talisman, the other a treasure seal, both containing astonishing power. As they flowed, dazzling auras transformed into runes, entering Ji Chuan's immortal body like raindrops. In an instant, Ji Chuan's whole body was covered in runes, raising his aura step by step. Immortal light swirled around him, as if he himself had become a nebula universe. Thus, two pure forces of golden immortal power surged wildly within this flesh prison, exploding without restraint. Together, they slowly pushed open this blood and flesh space. This move achieved unexpected success. Though the scales were difficult to shatter and remove quickly, the flesh was not as strong. Under the combined golden immortal powers of Xianxia and Ji Chuan, it was hard for the flesh to resist. However, this was by no means easy for them. The beast wall was formed from countless ferocious beasts, its power truly terrifying. For every inch of space they pushed open, Xianxia and Ji Chuan had to unleash unimaginable immortal power. They gritted their teeth, focusing intensely, crazily driving their immortal treasures and energy flows. This was an extremely unusual battle of strength, yet extremely perilous. From outside, the beast wall, formed from countless ancient ferocious beasts, swelled into a huge bulge like a mountain-sized flesh tumor. Countless remaining limbs and beast tails pressed down on that swelling, attempting to suppress it back. Boom, boom, boom. At a certain moment, a tremendous roar erupted. Unimaginable immortal power burst through the flesh prison, breaking the seal and soaring into the nine heavens. The entire gray and hazy forbidden zone world lit up. Xianxia and Ji Chuan directly burst the beast wall from within. Countless blood and flesh exploded. Driven by the impact, they surged across the world. Within 100 miles, everything was engulfed by blood and flesh. White bones and scales scattered everywhere, covering the sky and blocking the sun. The terrifying storm swept everything away, as if the world itself was collapsing. Immortal power and Tao forces blazed fiercely, mingled with ominous auras, plunging the place into unimaginable chaos. Chapter 1946, Supreme Insight Suppressing the Rebellion Part 1. The towering wall of flesh and blood collapsed, blood rain pouring endlessly down. The lingering souls of the ancient fierce beasts attached to it were also annihilated, igniting an ominous fire. Within 100 miles around, blood rained down while everything was ablaze, extremely eerie and terrifying. Let's go. I feel the source of the rebellion isn't far away. Amidst the blood rain and sea of fire, Xianxia and Ji Chuan were bathed in the chaotic scene. Their bodies were wrapped in immortal light, the power of their immortal treasures flowing around them, yet the runes covering their bodies had dimmed somewhat. Despite having reached the pinnacle of the golden immortal realm, this strange clash left them feeling temporarily fatigued. To shatter that bizarre beast wall, they had unleashed an unimaginable burst of immortal power in a short time. But there was no time to hesitate. Leading the way, Ji Chuan took the lead and Xianxia followed close behind. Following the ominous soul beast's aura, they began searching through the twisted world. Soon, more ominous soul beasts appeared out of nowhere, blocking their path. Neither Xianxia nor Ji Chuan hesitated, both struck decisively, killing without remorse. All these ominous soul beasts had at least golden immortal level strength or above, each extremely bulky, fused with countless ancient fierce beast souls. They possessed many strange techniques, empowered by ominous energy, enough to force two golden immortals of peak cultivation into a fierce battle just to break through and prevent being dragged down again. Fortunately, Xianxia's immense strength far exceeded Ji Chuan's initial expectation. Originally, Ji Rai was supposed to join forces here with Ji Chuan to venture deep into the Forbidden Zone. This made Ji Chuan somewhat relieved. The dark tide of soul beasts was fiercer than he imagined. If only Ji Rai and he, both at late golden immortal level, had come alone, they would hardly have managed to hold their own, let alone suppress the source of the rebellion. Though it cost a heavy price to summon Xianxia, the result was undoubtedly worth it. There it is, the source of the rebellion. After battling countless ominous soul beasts without pause, advancing relentlessly, they finally reached the end of the world, the so-called source of the rebellion. Before them was an extremely strange floating stone formation, countless stone carvings suspended in the void, reaching up to the nine heavens, faintly forming pillar-like shapes. Within them gathered ominous energy, and an inexplicable force flowed through the carvings, radiating a terrifying majesty that made one's heart tremble. Each stone carving was engraved with an image of an ancient fierce beast, archaic yet vivid, as if it might come alive at any moment. And in fact, just as Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan gazed from afar at the strange pillars, mist suddenly erupted, accompanied by a mysterious buzzing. Each stone carving trembled, rippling waves spreading outward, warping the entire realm. Seeing this, both Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan's faces grew serious. They sensed within the strange pillars a mysterious force, disrupting time and space. Then, from within the pillars, the residual souls of ancient fierce beasts were summoned, one after another, all in fragmented forms. Some were only a beast's head, others half a body or merely a limb. Roars roar. Chaotic roars echoed across the heavens and earth. Those fragmented beast souls flowed within the pillars, eventually merging to form the ominous soul beasts Jiang Chengxuan and the others had encountered. Moreover, the process was highly efficient. A single surge of activity fused three at once. However, Jiang Chengxuan suspected this was not fixed but random. How many fragments the pillar could summon at once, and the power of the resulting ominous soul beasts could not be controlled. For instance, these three just now were extremely powerful, all reaching late golden immortal levels, close to the pinnacle. You go destroy those pillars. I'll hold off these three soul beasts. Nearing success, Ji Chuan did not want to delay. Seeing the target, he immediately issued the order. Armor runes lit up his body, his immortal spear blazing, the golden immortal cosmos manifesting. Without hesitation, he charged fiercely toward the three newly emerged ominous soul beasts. Meanwhile, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes turned cold, exhaling a breath. The power of his golden, immortal peak cultivation surged again. He unleashed the 10,000 world manifest sacred scriptures and the 9 marvelous Bodhi lotus lantern. Having experienced many battles, Jiang Chengxuan had mastered the power of the golden immortal peak realm. As Ji Chuan clashed fiercely with the 3 ominous soul beasts, Jiang Chengxuan instantly transformed into a streak of light, breaking through the void, bypassing their battlefield to approach the strange stone pillars. Primordial Chaos Sword Strike. In the next moment, all his immortal power channeled into the primordial chaos sword. Jiang Chengxuan swung the sword violently. In an instant, the image of the Milky Way surged in the wind, sword intent like a river, slicing through the void. Boom! Both battlefields simultaneously erupted with deafening thunder. The world-shattering power of the golden immortal engulfed 1,000 miles. The void shattered bit by bit, stars vanished. Jiang Chengxuan's terrifying strike landed on the stone pillar, causing the entire world to tremble. Hum! The raging immortal power made the pillar's buzzing grow louder, triggering a shocking transformation. Many stone carvings shattered. The mysterious power flowing between the pillars suddenly exploded with overwhelming force. Chapter 1947, Supreme Insight Suppressing the Rebellion Part 2. Mass after mass of solid energy overflowed, summoning tens of thousands of fragmented soul beasts that swept across the land. Roar! At the same time, this change also alerted the 3 ominous soul beasts. They howled fiercely, their gaze and aura pressing directly toward Jiang Chengxuan, attempting to devour him. HMPH seeking death. Unexpectedly, this distraction created an opportunity for Ji Chuan. He seized the moment and thrust his immortal spear through the sky, piercing one of the ominous soul beasts and dealing it a severe wound. Don't think you can come again. 10,000 world manifest sacred scriptures manifest. Jiang Chengxuan continued destroying the strange stone pillar. As more beast souls were summoned, he concentrated, and countless 10,000 world manifest runes peered around him like a sea of stars. Then the golden runes transformed into numerous flying swords carrying powerful sealing force. Like a legion of swords returning to their origin, they slashed at the residual souls emerging from the pillar. The flying rune swords struck precisely and swiftly, cutting down the summoned fragments. The towering pillar exploded countless times, golden light flashing. Countless incomplete ancient fierce beast souls were erased by Jiang Chengxuan before they could fuse. Good! Even Ji Chuan, who was fiercely battling the 3 ominous soul beasts, shouted in astonishment, eyes shining brightly. He did not know how long he could hold out, but if the pillar continued summoning these soul beasts, it would be the last straw. Jiang Chengxuan's actions aligned perfectly with Ji Chuan's intentions. Seizing the chance to destroy the fragments before they fused, Jiang Chengxuan did not stop. With the primordial chaos sword in hand, he slashed repeatedly. The universe's image surged violently, striking the stone pillar and breaking countless carvings, triggering terrifying disturbances. This provoked the strange stone pillar into stronger resistance. It tried again to resurrect ancient fierce beasts. But Jiang Chengxuan gave it no chance, immediately unleashing the 10,000-world manifest sacred scriptures to suppress it. Sensing the pillar lacked direct offensive power, Jiang Chengxuan's gaze grew even sharper. Bearing the golden immortal cosmic manifestations and the 9 marvelous Bodhi lotus lantern, he transformed into a river of stars. He closed completely in on the strange pillar, then suddenly plunged the primordial chaos sword deep into it. Clutching the sword tightly with both hands, Jiang Chengxuan poured immense, immortal power into it. He spiraled upward around the pillar. The sword's blade tore deep, creating gaping wounds inside. Instantly, the entire strange pillar stirred chaotic currents of primordial chaos. Countless ominous energies surged. They were torn apart from bottom to top by Jiang Chengxuan's terrifying destruction. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan abandoned all distractions. His sole thought was to dismantle the entire pillar with his sword, disregarding all obstacles. Soon he pierced into the 9 heavens. He had already slashed the pillar full of countless wounds. But this was not the end. With golden immortal cosmic protection, Jiang Chengxuan did not withdraw his sword from the pillar. He reversed direction, cutting downward again through the chaotic and ominous energy. Where the sword passed, countless carvings shattered. Ominous energy wildly dispersed, sweeping the heavens and earth. But this did not affect Jiang Chengxuan. He maintained a domineering stance, cutting straight through all difficulties, until he left a bottomless crack from top to bottom in the strange pillar. All this happened in a flash. Jiang Chengxuan unleashed his peak power to complete this decisive strike. Now the strange pillar was nearing its limit. Though it was the root of this rebellion, its true body held little threat. Under Jiang Chengxuan's relentless assault, it immediately began collapsing. Countless floating carvings shattered. They could no longer maintain the pillar shape. The pillar began to collapse. Primordial chaos gushed forth. Ominous energy was extinguished. The broken core began to disintegrate. It turned into countless meteors scattering across half the sky. This stirred up vast dust and powerful spatial fluctuations. Roar, roar. Shriek, hiss. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan felt the mysterious force within the pillar vanish. The 3 ominous residual beasts battling Ji Chuan let out agonizing screams. Their twisted forms began to warp. They gradually caved in. It was as if half of them was being absorbed by something. Then they dissipated completely. At the same time, at the outskirts of the Forbidden Zone, those ominous soul beasts were vanishing as well. Elder Yunxi, Hao Shen the Great Immortal, and others had already been pushed to the edge by the beast tide. Bathed in blood, they had fought to their limits. Hair disheveled, eyes dull. Behind them lay the outside world. Countless disciples of the Zhexian Immortal sect were fiercely battling ominous soul beasts. Rivers of blood and corpses littered the ground. They disappeared, those damn things are gone. They succeeded, they suppressed the source of the rebellion. At this critical moment, the terrifying ominous soul beasts suddenly self-destructed. In their earth-shaking roars, they twisted to the extreme. They collapsed and vanished. Everyone was stunned and shocked. But soon they realized it was Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan's success. The rebellion source had been suppressed. Good, good, good. The Forbidden Zone rebellion is suppressed, ha ha ha. We are saved, long live. Finally, it's over, freed from those damn monsters. Instantly, everyone felt great relief. Even Ji Rai and his companions were no exception. The edge of the Forbidden Zone was completely devastated. It had become a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Ominous darkness corrupted everything. The scene was one of utter devastation. Massive war fortresses crashed down like mountains. They burned fiercely. Smoke spread, telling a silent tale of sorrow. Countless disciples of the Zhexian Immortal sect wept tears of joy. Others mourned deeply for fallen close friends and family. Finally, deep in the Forbidden Zone, even the usually calm Ji Chuan's eyes were filled with emotion as he exhaled deeply. watching the strange stone pillar collapse. Carvings fell. Primordial chaos dissipated into the sky. His heart was filled with wild joy. However, at that moment, from the boundless heavens above, a mysterious aura suddenly descended. The clouds and winds gathered. The colors of heaven and earth changed. The powerful aura almost froze the entire world. It suffocated all living beings. In a blur, it seemed as if countless eyes passed through countless layers of invisible space. They locked onto Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan's location. Immediately, that overwhelming will caused both their hearts to tremble. Their hairs stood on end. This force came so suddenly and was so terrifying. Jiang Chengxuan sensed that it was an aura surpassing even the golden immortal realm. But soon, in an instant, the will swept across the entire realm and vanished without a trace. All things returned to normal, flowing naturally once more. What was that? Jiang Chengxuan knew it had come. It terrified them. It was extremely frightening. That is what I call the backup left behind by those big shots here. It should be the power dispersed from the strange stone pillar that attracted their attention. Hearing this, Ji Chuan slowly spoke. He explained everything with a heavy and cautious expression. Jiang Chengxuan's gaze turned cold. From the moment he saw the stone pillar, he had sensed a mysterious power within it. What is it? A trace of primordial chaos energy. Only that kind of power can cross time and space and cause the soul beast tide. As Ji Chuan continued explaining, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly understood. He vaguely grasped the whole truth. But this episode weighed heavily on both their minds. Chapter 1948, The Great Tao Scripture, Insight into the Mortal World, Part 1. Having finally suppressed the root of the rebellion, Jiang Chengxuan and Ji Chuan were suddenly subjected to the probing will of a great Luo golden immortal. This sudden intrusion was like a cold shower poured over their hearts, swiftly cooling their spirits. A trace of primordial chaos energy. So this is the purpose of those great Luo golden immortals in this forbidden zone. In silence, Jiang Chengxuan brushed away the haze in his mind, looked up at the sky, and spoke solemnly. After experiencing this recent event, he felt that he had vaguely grasped the significance of the special existence within the forbidden zone. Within the ancient realm, primordial chaos energy has vanished. The attainment of the great Luo golden immortal stage can only find a sliver of opportunity inside these forbidden zones. Therefore, these active forbidden zones have long since been divided and controlled by great Luo golden immortals from all factions. They have never intended to completely suppress these places that cause disasters. At this point, Ji Chuan also sighed, seemingly perceiving the shift in Jiang Chengxuan's mood. He slowly spoke, revealing more secrets. These were truths only known to those who had reached the pinnacle of this boundless world of the ancient realm. Even sects as grand as the Chengxuan sect must abide by these rules. Let us go, the matter is finished. After a brief pause, Ji Chuan accompanied Jiang Chengxuan as they returned to the edge of the forbidden zone. Along the way, Jiang Chengxuan no longer showed much interest in the affairs of the forbidden zone. This was not due to being intimidated by the will of the great Luo golden immortal. In fact, shortly after leaving that place, Jiang Chengxuan had already cast those concerns aside. For his long cultivation path, such matters were trivial. He had always known that there are always greater heavens and stronger people beyond. Ding! Congratulations, host. Achievement unlocked. Suppress the root of the rebellion. What truly caught Jiang Chengxuan's attention was the system's notification. Mid the gradually calming chaos, his eyes gleamed with joy. System reward, Great Luo Tao Scripture acquired. This is a supreme entity's insight into the Great Luo Tao, transcending this world. The system's voice slowly sounded, and a simple yet ancient tome silently appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's arms. He was somewhat surprised, because the system's description of the scripture was rather vague. However, this did not mean the scripture lacked value. Jiang Chengxuan also sensed a mysterious and unfathomable intent within it, vast and ancient. Needless to say, this was undoubtedly an extraordinary treasure. Moreover, the fact that the system rated its origin as from an unsurpassed entity made Jiang Chengxuan eager to explore it. But before he could get too excited, with the ominous rebellion's power no longer obstructing them, the two had already arrived at the edge of the forbidden zone. Big brother, young friend Chengxuan. Nearby, Zhirai, elder Yunxi, and others, though somewhat battered, were waiting. Upon seeing their approach, They all smiled and breathed a sigh of relief. Especially for Ji Rai and Elder Yunxi, seeing them unharmed made them feel even more reassured. "Everyone, you have worked hard." Ji Chuan arrived and surveyed the devastation around. He cupped his hands and respectfully greeted the immortals. "To serve one's lord faithfully and loyally, Elder, you are too polite." "That is true. Since the Xianxia sect is so sincere, it is only right to be rewarded for our efforts." Upon hearing this, Hao Shen and the other great immortals replied firmly and solemnly. With this battle concluded, the matter of their reward was at hand. Whether their contributions were sufficient depended solely on Ji Chuan's word. Everyone fought bravely in this battle. Come back with us to the Zheshan immortal sect, and we will treat you well." Understanding their thoughts, the crafty Ji Chuan first glanced at Jiang Chengxuan, then smiled and loudly addressed the group. Hao Shen and the others were momentarily stunned, then overjoyed. Clearly, Ji Chuan's words acknowledged their contributions in this battle. In truth, as long as the rebellion was suppressed, Ji Chuan would not be overly demanding. Especially since the rebellion was far more terrifying than he had expected, preserving the Forbidden Zone's edge without breach was already enough to satisfy him. Not to mention that Jiang Chengxuan's role in this battle might have even surpassed his own. Considering Jiang Chengxuan's reputation, Ji Chuan would not make things difficult for him. Thus, under the leadership of Ji Chuan and Ji Rai, the immortal army of the Zheshan immortal sect regrouped. Jiang Chengxuan and the others followed in triumph, returning to the sect's mountain gate. This battle had cost the Zheshan immortal sect dearly, with many elders and disciples falling. But suppressing the rebellion made it all worthwhile. The Forbidden Zone's edge remained unbreached, and the Soul Beast tide did not rage into the Xianxuan world, the best possible outcome. Several days later, the entire Zheshan immortal realm celebrated together, immortals and mortals rejoicing at the end of the calamity. Countless related immortal sects also breathed a sigh of relief. This was truly a grand event that moved the entire ancient realm. Jiang Chengxuan did not stay long at the Zheshan immortal sect. After exchanging some formalities, he bid farewell to Ji Chuan, Ji Rai, and the others. He left the sect alone and returned to the Haoran immortal realm. At this moment, Shen Ruyan was still in seclusion. Not much time had passed. Although the suppression of the Forbidden Zone rebellion had come suddenly and swiftly, the time elapsed was not long. Chapter 1949, The Great Luo Dao Scripture, Insight into the Mortal World Part 2. Yet the entire experience left a deep impression on Jiang Chengxuan. Whether it was the first time he ventured into the Forbidden Zone to confront its strangeness and ominousness, or the secrets hidden deep within that zone, all of it was impossible to ignore. The strange connection between the Great Luo Golden Immortals and the Forbidden Zones, the disappearance of the primordial chaos energy in the ancient realm, these facts were profoundly shocking. That was definitely not the will of someone who has just entered the Great Luo realm. Jiang Chengxuan muttered softly to himself as he recalled that powerful consciousness. This time, when I break through to the Great Luo Golden Immortal realm, I must venture back into that Forbidden Zone and investigate further. At present, Jiang Chengxuan's desire to advance his cultivation soared. According to Ji Chuan, there were many Forbidden Zones throughout the ancient realm, each occupied by a Great Luo Golden Immortal. This truly revealed the vastness of the ancient realm and the countless unsurpassed existences that had long been hidden. They coveted the fleeting opportunities within these Forbidden Zones and dared not leave for even a moment, thus remaining elusive. Yet once they took action, the entire pattern of the ancient realm could change effortlessly. Great Luo Golden Immortals had reached an immortal and indestructible state, coexisting with the Tao itself. Their existence was shrouded in mystery, and many might have been prodigies of their eras, or even came from the future. Imagining the endless possibilities of eternal life and immortality, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but feel exhilarated, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Taking out the Great Luo Dao Scripture bestowed by the system, Jiang Chengxuan focused his mind to study it. For some reason, there was a faint sense of familiarity, as if he had seen it before. He gently opened the first page, but instead of words, there were intricate runes interwoven, faintly shifting in an endless dance. These are extremely ancient characters, requiring gradual deciphering, or even the use of the primordial spirit to comprehend their transformations. Jiang Chengxuan realized the scripture's profundity. This ancient tome was written in the language of the Tao, extremely obscure and difficult to understand. It contained the author's thoughts, insights, and even emotions. Only by comparing and cross-referencing these ancient characters could one resonate with the Tao embedded within, allowing Jiang Chengxuan to better comprehend it. Suppressing his eagerness for the moment, Jiang Chengxuan made his way to the Haoran Immortal Sect's Grand Library. That was a towering structure that completely transformed a valley, resembling a massive ancient tome hundreds of meters tall, standing proud between heaven and earth. Various great arrays were laid out inside, gathering spiritual energy and forming defenses. In moments of danger, the entire library could even be relocated. Welcome, Patriarch. Welcome, Patriarch. Thanks to his status, Jiang Chengxuan did not need to enter through the main gate. He stepped through countless formations and arrived directly at the highest floor. Immediately, two elderly elders appeared, bowed respectfully, and said, "You have worked hard." Jiang Chengxuan smiled kindly and returned their respect before entering the library. From above, he came directly to the highest level, filled with countless ancient scriptures and Tao methods. These were the most precious treasures in the entire library, restricted even from the sect's grand elders. The surroundings were extremely simple and spacious. In the center was a single yellow meditation cushion. Around it, ancient books were scattered like stars, protected within pillars of light formed by formation magic. On the floor were faintly visible complex totems, part of a quasi-golden immortal formation that added solemnity and a sense of antiquity. Jiang Chengxuan had only visited this place once during its construction. Now approaching the cushion and sitting down, his heart was calm and serene. I never imagined that reaching this level would lead me back to hard study. Sitting peacefully, Jiang Chengxuan smiled wryly. He took out the great Luo Dao scripture again, holding it carefully. He also prepared incense, then began to study. Soon, with his state of mind, Jiang Chengxuan was fully immersed in the scripture, free of distractions. Within this spacious, antique-style library, Jiang Chengxuan, dressed in white, sat motionless like a stone Buddha. His aura was distant and calm, resembling a common scholar. Only the occasional ripple of space and the subtle emanation of profound energy revealed his extraordinary nature. Time passed like no clock in the mountains, coldness beyond knowing the years. After repeatedly breaking limits in cultivation realms, finally reaching golden immortal perfection, no one expected Jiang Chengxuan to settle into such a scholarly life. For the next 1,000 years, he devoted himself entirely within the Haoran Immortal Sect to studying the great Luo Dao scripture and reading various ancient texts. Following its instructions, he practiced Tao methods and refined mystical treasures. The scripture contained not only many great Luo golden immortals, insights into the Tao, but also numerous techniques for refining Tao, mind, and body. These were ancient secret methods Jiang Chengxuan had never heard of before. Even for someone at his golden immortal perfection level, they proved quite effective. To try these methods one by one, Jiang Chengxuan did not remain confined to the library continuously. He would emerge periodically. He resembled an immortal elder, an alchemist, or a scholar, shedding the terrifying aura of golden immortal perfection. When Jiang Chengxuan first entered the path of cultivation, he trained in many arts and was familiar with these techniques. But as his realm rose, fighting, cultivating, and conquest took center stage, and he gradually forgot these. Now, picking them up again brought him a mysterious sensation, as if transcending time to return to the past, re-experiencing the mundane world and the breath of mortal life. This was an extremely rare feeling. It even made Jiang Chengxuan somewhat immersed, sensing his own transformation. Both his Tao heart and his insight into the Tao slowly changed. Jiang Chengxuan vaguely sensed that this might be one of the lessons the great Luo Dao scripture intended to teach him. So he focused even more, spending almost every day with the scripture. Even after 1,000 years, he had only comprehended about half of its contents. Time flew silently, leaving no trace. Throughout the ancient realm, everyone gradually forgot Jiang Chengxuan's existence. Only Elder Yun, she occasionally visited Haoran Immortal Sect and saw him once in a while. During the rest of the time, Jiang Chengxuan seemed half dormant, no longer heard from. Whether it was the emergence of various secret realms, Taoist scriptures manifesting, or golden immortal contests, he left no trace. One by one, Incredibly powerful supreme beings in the past had been forgotten in this way. Jiang Chengxuan was obviously no exception. He simply needed more time. Yet Jiang Chengxuan did not care about these so-called reputations. Those treasures no longer mattered to him. Heoran immortal sect did not need his intervention and naturally responded accordingly. He only continued to study the great Luo Dao scripture in the library, regaining past insights. What was even more mysterious was that the more Jiang Chengxuan delved into the scripture, the stronger the sense of familiarity became. He could not help but wonder when and where its owner had had some connection with him. But the answer was none. The entity praised by the system as an unsurpassed existence had no interaction with Jiang Chengxuan, and even the Dao methods he learned bore no relation. Perhaps this is simply due to the system's influence. Jiang Chengxuan could only let go of seeking clues and attributed the familiarity to the system's power. Perhaps it was the system that allowed him to comprehend this scripture. No matter what, the system was absolutely loyal to Jiang Chengxuan and would never harm him. With this thought, Jiang Chengxuan continued to study the great Luo Dao scripture day after day. Meanwhile, within Heoran immortal sect, in the role of a bystander, he quietly observed the cultivation of countless disciples and followers. At the same time, he recalled his past and re-embraced the breath of mortal life, shaping in his heart the true great Luo Dao. Chapter 1950, The Mysterious Elder, the Nine Mystical Sects, Part 1. The Grand Selection of Heoran. This was an event of utmost significance, not only to the Heoran Profound sect, but to the entire Heoran Profound realm. Held once every 3 centuries, it was open to all young cultivators within the realm. Through rounds of rigorous trials and eliminations, 10 individuals would ultimately be chosen, bestowed with the title of the 10 Chosen of Heoran. From that moment onward, they would soar to greatness, receiving the full backing and cultivation resources of the entire Heoran Profound sect. Those who managed to claim this honor were all peerless talents among geniuses. Regardless of their background or status, every one of them had eventually become a pillar of the Heoran Profound sect. Thus, when this round of the grand selection commenced, it stirred the entire ancient domain of Heoran. Millions of young cultivators flocked to the selection immortal city, each striving to seize a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could lead them to the heavens. Among them were both nameless wanderers from the broader Heoran Profound realm and elite disciples from the main sect itself. In each bout, new stars rose. Some shocked the world by emerging from obscurity, others upheld their prestigious reputations, sweeping through all challengers with invincible might. With such fierce competition, new names of extraordinary talents would resound through the realm almost daily, causing endless discussions and excitement across the land. Amid all this, Jiang Chengxuan, his identity concealed, was quietly wandering from one immortal city to another across the Heoran Profound realm. He resembled a roving cultivator, observing scenes of joy and sorrow, rise and fall, as they played out in the mortal world. This was the way of the cultivation world, full of human drama. In every era, someone would rise to prominence, while others were buried in obscurity. Some surrendered to fate, while others defied it and rose against all odds. So this is the path of cultivation. Life and death, survival and demise, often decided in a single moment, a single thought. Walking along a forest path in the most ordinary of manners, Jiang Chengxuan murmured softly to himself. Lifting the gourd at his waist, a faint wisp of immortal energy curled out as he took a drink. It had been 2,500 years since he acquired the great Luo Dao canon. Sometime during the second millennium, Jiang Chengxuan had left the scripture repository and begun wandering the mortal realm while comprehending the Dao canon and gaining insights into the great Dao. He no longer needed to cross-reference ancient texts. He could now read and understand the contents of the Dao canon on his own. During these millennia, although he had done little in the way of conventional cultivation, he could clearly feel his realm steadily rising. With the help of the Dao canon, he had gained new divine arts and techniques. Both his physical body and spiritual form had become increasingly refined, approaching flawlessness. Even though roughly 10% of the canon remained uncomprehended, Jiang Chengxuan was already confident that he had what it took to break through to the great Luo realm. He could attempt it at any time. Once I obtain the mixed primordial stone, I can formally begin the breakthrough. Although he had focused primarily on Dao comprehension for the past 2,000 years, it didn't mean he had neglected other preparations. Following the guidance in the Great Luo Dao Canon, Jiang Chengxuan had refined pills that could aid in breaking through to the Great Luo Golden Immortal stage. He had also gathered countless rare immortal materials, nearly everything he needed. These methods were all previously unknown to him, not mentioned in any known ancient record. Yet the Dao Canon contained not just one, but multiple such methods, revealing just how extraordinary it truly was. It was precisely because of this that Jiang Chengxuan felt so confident in his upcoming breakthrough. The final item he lacked was a treasure known as the mixed primordial stone. Strangely, this stone had no mention in any other ancient texts regarding its utility in breaking through to the Great Luo Golden Immortal realm. And yet, the Great Luo Dao Canon provided methods to harness it during the breakthrough process. This, in turn, proved something else, that the Dao Canon was likely even older and more profound than all other ancient scriptures. Where had it come from? Why did it feel so inexplicably familiar to him? Jiang Chengxuan had pursued many clues, but none had led to an answer. Regardless, his next destination had already been decided. After waiting for 1,000 years, news of the mixed primordial stone had finally surfaced. It had appeared in one of the realm's most prominent auction houses, the Thousand Treasure Domain. The 9 mystical sects. This was a dazzling gem of the ancient domain, a realm not famed for overwhelming power or endless resources, but known to nearly every cultivator in the ancient world. Within this 1,000 treasure domain lay the so-called 9 mystical sects. Contrary to what one might assume, this was not a single sect, but rather a collective of 9 sects. Each of these 9 possessed an incredibly mysterious inheritance. Through arcane methods like divination, intuition, foresight, and uncanny premonitions, they could predict the appearance of rare treasures in secret realms. In the past, this ability had nearly led to their extinction. There wasn't a single force that did not covet such a gift. As the saying goes, a man's wealth is his own undoing. During their early years, the 9 sects each fell into endless cycles of calamity and karmic retribution due to the fateful encounters they discovered. They lived constantly in turmoil and fear. But in every generation, each of the 9 sects would eventually produce a prodigious figure of unimaginable might. Through incredible means, these figures sought out the others, and discovered to their astonishment that others shared their origin and legacy. Thus, the 9 sects united, forming a powerful alliance now known as the 9 mystical sects. Only then did they finally secure a firm foothold in the ancient domain. Utilizing their treasure-seeking arts to accumulate resources, they rose to power and became dominant, no longer fearing the greed and jealousy of other immortal sects. Later, in order to ensure their continued prosperity and security, the 9 mystical sects established one of the largest auction houses in the entire ancient domain. Through this platform, they distributed the opportunities and treasures they discovered, forming connections with powerful forces across the realm. In the 9 mystical auction house, you could obtain virtually anything you desired: immortal treasures, rare materials, or priceless resources. Chapter 1951, The Mysterious Elder, the 9 Mystical Sects, Part 2. Even the rarest of treasures, those deemed unattainable by fate, might one day appear at the 9 mystical auction house. One could say that the auction house had become synonymous with opportunity. Since its founding, the 9 mystical sects had cemented their position as a uniquely untouchable force within the ancient domain. Anyone daring to act against them would find themselves entangled in countless webs of interest. This had firmly established their transcendent status. So this is the 9 mystical auction house. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan stood before the legendary auction house. A massive projection of light bathed him. Looking up, he saw an architectural marvel suspended in the clouds, 9 palace-like structures, each one vast as a mountain range, nestled among radiant clouds, shining with boundless immortal brilliance. 9 colored rivers of starlight flowed upward against the heavens, winding their way toward the 9 structures. Immortal carriages and celestial vessels moved through the skies, casting dazzling auras that lit up the firmament, a scene of unparalleled splendor. The 1,000 treasure domain wasn't particularly large, but this building, grander than any immortal city, could be seen from nearly anywhere. It was, without question, the true heart of the 9 mystical sects. Treading upon one of the starry rivers, Jiang Chengxuan ascended, surrounded by murmurs from immortals of all origins. "Did you hear? One of the 9 mystical treasures up for auction this time is a golden immortal treasure. Hiss, a golden immortal treasure. That's a bold move. Only the 9 mystical auction house could offer something like that. Haha, every grand auction they host features 9 mystical treasures, each one a legendary artifact. There was once a time when one of those treasures was part of a great Luo golden immortal's inheritance. Ever heard of that? You mean that fragment of a great Luo scripture? Exactly. That auction even drew actual great Luo golden immortals to attend. Heavens, that's beyond comprehension. Their voices were filled with excitement, discussing past auctions and the legendary items that had once appeared. Their eyes sparkled with longing and anticipation. Even Jiang Chengxuan had to admit, hearing these stories gave him a new level of respect for the 9 mystical auction house. But for him, the goal this time was simpler, the unassuming mixed primordial stone. Though undoubtedly valuable, it wasn't something others would regard as a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. It almost certainly wouldn't be one of the 9 mystical treasures. After all, aside from the great Luo Dao canon in Jiang Chengxuan's possession, no other text had ever recorded that this stone could aid in breaking through to the great Luo golden immortal realm. As he was swept into the colorful light streams, Jiang Chengxuan finally arrived at the gates of the 9 mystical auction house. Just then, a figure emerged from within the grand structure. Clad in ornate armor of glazed crystal, he asked respectfully, "Esteemed guest, it appears this is your first visit to the 9 mystical auction house. Might we have your name?" This was a servant of the auction house. The formation enveloping the entire structure allowed them to discern the origins of every visitor. For first-timers like Jiang Chengxuan, such inquiries were standard protocol. Refusal was an option, but it meant being barred from the auction's core events. "An elder of the Haoran sect," Jiang Chengxuan casually replied, using an internal sect title rather than giving his real name. But even so, the servant's eyes lit up in surprise and respect. "Welcome, honored guest. This is a heaven token of the 9 mystical auction house. Please accept it. With this, you may participate in any of the current auction sessions." It was clear that the name of the Haoran profound sect carried considerable weight in the ancient domain. Even someone claiming to be a mere elder could receive priority treatment. Just a lowly elder and he gets a heaven token. What's the big deal? Suddenly, a sarcastic and mocking voice rang out from nearby, catching Jiang Chengxuan off guard. Turning around, he saw a slouching figure reclining against a stone pillar beside the gate. Dressed in ragged gray-black robes, unkempt and disheveled, the man held an enormous gourd of wine in one hand and looked thoroughly disinterested in the world around him. Such a sight wasn't rare, but for someone like this to appear at the entrance of the 9 mystical auction house, and to openly mock it. Now that caught Jiang Chengxuan's attention. "Please pay him no mind," the attendant said smoothly, as if used to the situation. "That man is just a drunken vagrant who enjoys spouting nonsense." But Jiang Chengxuan was unconvinced. He continued to study the slovenly cultivator, waiting for some kind of rebuttal. Yet instead of responding, the man simply took another large swig from his gourd and lay back down, chuckling to himself without further comment. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan smiled faintly and chose not to press the matter. He stepped into the auction house. Inside, the space was vast, brilliant with golden light, filled with shelves and displays of rare and exotic treasures. It was like stepping into another world. Above, the dome of the hall glowed with concentrated immortal light, as if replicating the heavens themselves. Beneath that sky, the many immortals gathered were adorned in dazzling robes, their auras profound. Each of them was a peerless genius, a dragon among men, or a figure of noble heritage, surrounded by entourages and attendants. Blending in with the crowd, Jiang Chengxuan did not draw attention. His focus was clear, to obtain the mixed primordial stone. Soon, the entire flow of people funneled toward a single area, an enigmatic space access through a mystical gateway, leading to what resembled a miniature universe. In this deep starry domain, star-like buildings surrounded a central platform, arranged like constellations. These seats were refined from meteoric iron, radiating starlight. Immortals walked through the void, alighting upon their designated seats. At the center of it all stood a robed immortal on a raised platform. With stars at his back and a staff in his hand, he wore a calm smile. "Honored guests, welcome to the 9 mystical auction house. Today's event is a grand gathering. We've assembled secret treasures that have been prepared over millennia. I assure you, there will be something here for everyone. All items will be traded through barter only. Their worth shall be evaluated on the spot by yours truly, in consultation with the seller. Allow me to introduce myself. I am one of the 9 mystical sects elders, Elder Xianxia. The moment the robed elder revealed his identity, the auction hall erupted in a buzz of astonishment. Indeed, every grand auction hosted by the 9 mystical sects required one of the 9 mystical elders to preside, elders of the highest rank within the sect. For cultivators like Jiang Chengxuan and the other attendees, the treasures being auctioned could no longer be measured in spirit crystals. Transactions were possible only through bartering with other immortal artifacts. Thus, a qualified authority was needed to determine the value and authenticity of each item, and none were more suited than the 9 mystical elders. Their inherited arts and secret techniques allowed them to appraise an item's worth, and with a lifetime of experience, they were regarded as the most authoritative treasure appraisers in the ancient domain. Enough talk, let us begin. Please focus your minds, our first immortal treasure is now ready to be unveiled. With that, the hall fell silent. No one questioned the rules. Elder Tianzuo wasted no words and began the auction immediately. In an instant, the place erupted with commotion. One rare treasure after another was brought to the platform, each one drawing gasps in awe. This was Jiang Chengxuan's first time attending such a grand auction, and he couldn't help but be dazzled. Treasures didn't just appear on the auction platform. Shouts came from within the crowd, each bidder calling out the names of their own immortal artifacts in exchange. Elder Tianzuo, with immense expertise, could determine the value of each offer the moment he heard it. If a bid was worthy, he would raise his hand, causing the seat of the bidder to glow brilliantly. If the offer fell short, that person's location would remain dim. And so, this strange but magnificent auction unfolded, its offerings overwhelming in quantity and extraordinary in value. Chapter 1952, The Supreme One, Secrets of the Past, Part 1. This is the clear crystal profound yellow pill, capable of dispelling inner demons and restoring one's Tao heart. A quasi-golden immortal level divine ability bidding once, twice, thrice sold. This is a fragment of a golden immortal treasure. If refined into an immortal artifact, it can greatly enhance its power. Sitting expressionlessly in the audience, Jiang Chengxuan listened as the old man Tianzuo gradually pushed the auction to its climax. One after another, rare treasures appeared, prompting many immortals to bring out their own valuable collections, stirring a wave of astonishment across the entire venue. This auction held by the 9 Secrets Profound sect truly lived up to its name and reputation. Every item presented here was worthy of being stored in the treasure vaults of a top golden immortal level power. This item is a heavenly earth profound stone, a rare and precious material known as the Hunyuan stone. Please begin bidding. Jiang Chengxuan didn't know how long he had been waiting, but the moment he heard the old man's thunderous voice, he trembled inwardly. It had finally appeared. The Hunyuan stone, though not recorded in the ancient world, was, on the surface, still regarded as an extremely rare immortal material. However, its true value lay in assisting with a breakthrough to the great Luo golden immortal realm. Even before Jiang Chengxuan could raise his hand to bid, several seats lit up as powerful immortals began offering valuable treasures in exchange, quickly gaining the attention of Tianzuo. I offer a celestial fate spirit fruit. This Hunyuan stone shall be mine. HMPH, I am an immortal tool forger. This item is mine for the taking. I will craft a profound immortal-grade artifact for the owner. I offer 3 universe condensation flowers. I yield to no one. More and more bids rang out. Tianzuo listened intently, nodding in approval. All eyes turned toward the bidding immortals, surprise and speculation spreading. This Hunyuan stone, it seemed, was highly coveted by certain exceptional immortals, something even Jiang Chengxuan hadn't fully anticipated. One quasi-golden, immortal-grade, immortal artifact. Yet with his current resources, Jiang Chengxuan had no need to fear competition. In the midst of the commotion, his calm, thunderous voice rang out, silencing the hall. Even Tianzuo was momentarily stunned, his eyes flashing with sharp light. Nonetheless, being a seasoned auctioneer, he quickly regained his composure, raised a hand in recognition, and lit up Jiang Chengxuan's seat. Immediately, the crowd's attention shifted to Jiang Chengxuan, their expressions filled with surprise. The Hunyuan stone was rare, yes, but it was still just an immortal material. Even if it could be used to craft a golden immortal treasure, how could it compare to an already complete quasi-golden immortal artifact? Wasn't this like trading a perfected elixir for raw herbs? Such behavior was extravagant to the extreme, practically reckless. One quasi-golden immortal artifact once, twice, thrice sold. Congratulations to this fellow Taoist. Amid the crowd's shocked silence, Tianzuo quickly completed the transaction with 3 ringing declarations, shaking the entire venue. No one dared to compete further. Even those who had claimed they must have the Hunyuan stone gave up without hesitation. To trade the whole for a part, only someone like Jiang Chengxuan could make such a deal. But in truth, the Hunyuan stone's potential far exceeded that of a quasi-golden immortal treasure. If those mighty golden immortals knew it could aid in breaking through to the great Luo realm, even a true golden immortal artifact might not be enough to exchange for it. Thus, Jiang Chengxuan had achieved his purpose, exploiting an information gap to secure the treasure with stunning ease. Soon, a messenger arrived and respectfully handed the Hunyuan stone to him. It looked unremarkable, spiral-shaped and speckled with faint crystalline light. As he put it away, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes gleamed with excitement, though his face remained calm. He was inwardly very satisfied. With this, the final key to his breakthrough to the great Luo realm was now in hand. Let us now present the next immortal treasure. On the platform, Tianzuo's voice continued, but Jiang Chengxuan didn't leave immediately. After years of contemplation and understanding the mortal world, his heart had long been serene. Though his breakthrough was now within reach, he remained composed, his inner world as still as a quiet lake. To avoid arousing suspicion, Jiang Chengxuan decided to stay and watch the rest of the auction. Many eyes had already begun to turn toward him, drawn by his earlier bids. A while later, after bidding on several more rare items and stunning the crowd further, Jiang Chengxuan finally decided it was time. The show had been put on. He no longer cared for the onlookers. Silently, he stood and left the auction hall. Everything is ready, the time has come. On the road outside, the vast space was nearly empty. The auction's climax, the 9 secret treasures, was about to begin, and nearly all the immortals had flocked to see them. Walking alone, Jiang Chengxuan took out the Hunyuan stone and rolled it gently in his palm, eyes burning with anticipation. He stepped out of the 9 secrets auction hall with firm, confident strides. "Ha ha, kid, it's you again. The auction isn't even over. Why are you leaving so early? Don't tell me you already burned through all your wealth, kek." Suddenly, a mocking voice interrupted his thoughts. Jiang Chengxuan paused briefly, then calmly put away the Hunyuan stone and looked toward the speaker. He wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled faintly and replied, "I've already obtained what I needed. The rest hold no interest for me." Sure enough, the one speaking was the same shabby immortal from before. Despite the passage of time, he was still slouched against the stone pillar at the door, sipping from his gourd of wine. Oh! Chapter 1953, The Supreme One, Secrets of the Past, Part 2. At that moment, for reasons unknown, the disheveled immortal's expression suddenly shifted, his eyes filled with a strange mix of shock and suspicion. "Young man, the item in your hand is that the Hunyuan stone." He had clearly noticed Jiang Chengxuan's earlier movements, and now his demeanor changed drastically. "It is," Jiang Chengxuan replied calmly. This sudden shift puzzled him further. For some reason, he had always felt that this seemingly drunk and slovenly man was far from ordinary, perhaps even unfathomably so. "You intend to use that to break into the Luo realm?" The immortal's next words sent a jolt through Jiang Chengxuan. His body stiffened, struck as if by lightning, pupils contracting. This seemingly casual question had pierced straight through to the core of his intentions. This man had instantly seen through the real purpose of the Hunyuan stone. Jiang Chengxuan was shaken. Who exactly is this man? In that instant, Jiang Chengxuan found himself unable to believe what he was hearing. His expression turned grave. He had already suspected this immortal was unusual, but he hadn't expected that he would know the true purpose of the Hunyuan stone, something never mentioned in the ancient records of the immortal realm. Could it be? This man had ties to the one who created the Luo Dao canon. A torrent of information surged into Jiang Chengxuan's mind, leaving even him momentarily dazed and speechless. "Who are you?" he asked at last, his voice steady but deep with caution. "How do you know the secret of the Hunyuan stone?" To his surprise, this question seemed to startle the drunken immortal as well. It was as if he hadn't expected Jiang Chengxuan to actually understand the true use of the stone. A strange stillness fell over the gate of the auction hall. Both men were caught off guard, one by what he had discovered, the other by what had been revealed. "And where did you learn of it?" the ragged immortal finally asked, recovering his composure and gazing at Jiang Chengxuan with solemn intensity. Clearly, his curiosity toward Jiang Chengxuan was no less than Jiang Chengxuan's toward him. "I learned it from a certain Tao canon," Jiang Chengxuan answered after a moment of thought, offering a half-truth. In reality, it had been bestowed upon him by the system, but he had no intention of explaining that now. "A Tao canon? Impossible. The teachings of that great one lost all power long ago. How could you possibly?" The ragged immortal grew agitated, his eyes burning with disbelief. Jiang Chengxuan remained expressionless, neither confirming nor denying. He simply shrugged. He knew that the more he spoke, the more likely he would reveal too much. Now, it was best to let the other fill in the gaps himself. And from what the man had just said, Jiang Chengxuan could now confirm it. This immortal had once been connected to the creator of the Tao canon. He was a follower of the Supreme Being. "Perhaps you were just lucky," the ragged immortal muttered after a long silence. "That great one's power has long since fallen dormant." Just as Jiang Chengxuan was about to probe further, the immortal slumped back against the stone pillar, drained of his earlier excitement. He took a heavy swig from his gourd, his eyes unfocused, lost in memory or perhaps regret. "Who was he, this supreme one you speak of? What was your relationship to him?" Jiang Chengxuan wasn't ready to let it go. He pressed further, each question more urgent than the last. "HMPH, the achievements of that great one are not for mere mortals to comprehend," the old man snapped. "Supreme one, yes, I suppose that title just barely does him justice." His eyes gleamed as he fell into recollection. Slowly, his voice grew distant, like that of someone remembering a long-lost dream. "There once existed a being beyond comprehension. He transcended the immortal realm itself and faced the heavens head-on. No law in all creation could escape his understanding. His very existence was the shelter of the Tao. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, we were fortunate to uncover fragments of his teachings. With them, we walked the great path, glimpsing truths that even this world's greatest immortals could never imagine. We entered a realm of secrets the entire immortal world had never known." As the ragged immortal spoke, Jiang Chengxuan could feel the intensity, the madness, the devotion behind his words. He could almost see that legendary figure, one who stood above all immortals, someone who truly transcended the Tao itself. Even after cultivating the Tao canon for millennia, Jiang Chengxuan had never fully grasped its creator's level. But now, this idea of transcending the very immortal Tao left his heart trembling. "De Luo golden immortal, surely more than that. Could it be Hun Yuan de Luo? Would that be enough to be called beyond the Tao?" He didn't know, he couldn't know. "We created an era of unparalleled glory under his legacy," the immortal continued. "But then, in one single era, all of it vanished. The methods he taught us returned to chaos. Nothing worked, everything we'd built crumbled into dust, as if it were all a dream." At this, the man's voice faded into sorrow and his aura weakened. All his passion turned to grief. And at last, Jiang Chengxuan understood why this man spent his days drunk at the gates of an auction house. He was mourning not just a master, but an entire lost world. Was it really possible? Could even a being who transcended the Tao vanish like that? For an immortal's legacy to be erased from existence, it was something Jiang Chengxuan had never heard of. It shook him deeply. And more frightening still, was the growing sense that this secret, this calamity, was tied to the truth of this world itself. Something like the forbidden zones, realms untouched, unknown, and buried in shadow. A yellow dream, nothing more, the ragged immortal sighed. He had spoken what he had kept hidden for millennia. He had roamed the immortal world for 10,000 years, never speaking of this to anyone. But when he saw that Jiang Chengxuan might be linked to that great one, he could not help himself. He clung to hope that maybe the Supreme One's path might once again be walked. Perhaps then, the mystery they once pursued could finally be solved. Silence hung between them. The air was still, but their hearts stirred like stormy seas. Eventually, seeing that the ragged immortal had closed his eyes and fallen back into his drunken days, Jiang Chengxuan turned to leave. He would return to the Hao Rang Chuan sect, prepare himself for the breakthrough. Once he stepped into De Luo, perhaps more answers would come. Just as he took his first step. "You should leave. They're coming," a voice spoke. Startled, Jiang Chengxuan turned to find a newcomer standing in the auction hall's doorway. Clad in elegant robes swirling with immortal mist, wearing an ornate crown, the man radiated nobility and unshakable presence. But his words were not for Jiang Chengxuan. They were aimed at the ragged immortal. "HMPH, leave. I'll leave when I please," the old man bellowed, suddenly wide awake and defiant. "What, do you think I fear you?" The robed figure frowned faintly, displeased, but said nothing more. Jiang Chengxuan quickly understood. This man was one of the true powers behind the Nine Secrets auction hall. It was likely his influence that allowed the drunk immortal to loiter here, until now. Buzz! In the blink of an eye, before anyone could stop him, the ragged immortal tore open space and vanished into the void with a swirl of energy. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan didn't hesitate. He ignited his immortal force and gave chase. He had to know the rest of the truth. But before he could disappear, "I suggest you not believe his nonsense," the robed man said coldly, "or face the consequences." His words carried a heavy warning, as if danger itself lay in wait, just beyond the veil of secrets. Chapter 1954, The Guile Heaven Sect, A Hand to Save the Game, Part 1. After driving away the ragged immortal, the robed elder warned Jiang Chengxuan one final time before turning resolutely to leave. His coming was sudden, and so was his departure, leaving the relationship between the two shrouded in mystery. For a moment Jiang Chengxuan stood frozen in place, his brows tightly furrowed. He had heard the hidden meaning in the elder's words. There was an imminent danger enshrouding the ragged immortal. If Jiang were to give in to his curiosity, he too would be entangled in karma. And that danger, even the esteemed Nine Secrets profound sect dared not provoke, hence why they had no choice but to expel the ragged immortal. Clearly, the ragged immortal held some ties with the Nine Secrets profound sect. Only then would they have tolerated his presence, if only briefly. The secrets behind the great Luo canon run deep, and he's the only one who knows the truth. But Jiang Chengxuan was not swayed by the elder's warning. He muttered to himself. The great Luo canon was connected to a supreme, unfathomable being, and possibly a great and ancient secret of the immortal realm itself. For Jiang Chengxuan, the ragged immortal was the only lead he could grasp. Buzz! Without further hesitation, Jiang's body surged with celestial power, and in the next instant he transformed into a beam of light, tearing through the void as he pursued the ragged immortal's trail. With his current cultivation, catching up wasn't difficult. Soon enough, he once again sensed the immortal's presence. As expected, but just as Jiang had anticipated, two terrifying auras emerged suddenly from the void, intercepting the ragged immortal ahead. A peak golden immortal and a late-stage golden immortal, what a terrifying force. Feeling the overwhelming pressure of the celestial energy that rumbled like thunder across the skies, even Jiang Chengxuan was momentarily shaken. The two cultivators blocking the ragged immortal were both fearsomely powerful golden immortals, one at the late stage, and the other already at the peak of the golden immortal realm. Stronger even than the legendary twins of the heaven-sundering profound sect, Ji Chuan and Ji Rai. Jiang's gaze grew increasingly grave. Clearly, the matter involving the ragged immortal was far more consequential than he had imagined. "HMPH, Huoshan, let's see where you run today. Still hoping the Nine Secrets profound sect will protect you. See if they have the guts to defy our Guile Heaven sect." Before Jiang could even fully evaluate the situation, the two intercepting figures boomed their declarations. Their aura surged to the heavens. From their words, Jiang not only learned the ragged immortal's name, Huoshan, but also the identity of the two attackers. The Guile Heaven sect. Jiang's eyes narrowed sharply. He hadn't expected it to be them. No wonder even the Nine Secrets sect had distanced themselves. The Guile Heaven sect, once known as the Heaven Dominion sect, was one of the most ancient forces within the immortal realm. 10,000 years ago, its name had stood for sanctity and salvation, revered by countless cultivators. It was during the time of an unprecedented crisis when multiple forbidden zones erupted simultaneously, unleashing catastrophic corruption across vast regions. Countless realms were contaminated, and billions of lives were lost. It was then that the Heaven Dominion sect rose to prominence. Their founder, Heaven Dominion Grandmaster, led 12 golden immortals to slay abominations from the forbidden zones, suppressing the chaos. Afterward, they became overlords of the immortal realm, reigning supreme. At that time, many sects, such as the Yunlin Immortal sect, were still in their infancy. But everything changed 10,000 years ago, when the sect suddenly changed its name to the Guile Heaven sect. From that point on, their entire philosophy shifted. Though they remained incredibly powerful, they no longer maintained peace. Instead, they stirred bloody chaos throughout the realm. They plundered hidden realms, seized mystical treasures, and oppressed the weak. Many sects near their territory were forced into submission, offering tributes of resources, divine treasures, and even disciples. Worse still, they were ordered to perform high rituals in honor of the sect's founder, the Guile Heaven Grandmaster, who was rumored to have already stepped into the great Luo Golden Immortal realm. Who would dare defy such a being? I'm impressed you two dogs could chase me this far, crossing several domains just to sniff me out. So what if I can't escape? Whatever you're looking for, you'll never get it in this life. Ha ha ha. Despite being backed into a corner, Hugh Ocean was not cowed. Instead, he mocked them with laughter and disdain. Still so smug at death's door. Whatever it is, as long as it's on you, we'll extract it, be it by soul scouring you for 1,000 or 10,000 years. Laughable. The two from the Guile Heaven sect were clearly enraged. Their eyes gleamed with killing intent. Jiang Chengxuan didn't yet know what it referred to, but he had a growing sense. It must be related to the Supreme being the ragged immortal had hinted at. Die Huoshan. And just like that, the moment exploded. With a furious roar, the two golden immortals unleashed their celestial universes, blanketing the sky in an oppressive storm of divine force. Their sheer might distorted space, sending divine thunder roaring across the void. They simultaneously cast special divine talismans, which ignited in midair, burning with eerie celestial flames. From the fire, totem-like chains materialized, radiating sinister light as they surged toward Huoshan like divine executioners. Wherever the chains passed, the void was ripped apart, laws of reality dissolved, and space itself twisted and collapsed. Chapter 1955, The Guile Heaven Sect, Intervention to Turn the Tide, Part 2. With just one glance, Jiang Chengxuan could already tell that the cultivators from the Guile Heaven sect were no weaker than Zhechuan from the Heaven-Crushing sect. Naturally, the slovenly immortal, Huo Tian, wouldn't sit and wait for death. Even though his current strength was clearly at a disadvantage against the two cultivators from the Guile Heaven sect, he remained remarkably composed in the face of their sky-covering might. His golden immortal cosmos surged forth, boundless immortal force condensing into a blade-shaped immortal treasure, which he swung upward to cleave through the celestial river. Boom! In an instant, the massive impact swept across the heavens and earth. Countless stars fell from the night sky as the three forces clashed. Space collapsed in vast swaths, and the world trembled within a 1,000-mile radius. Strange, something's not right. From afar, Jiang Chengxuan frowned. Something about Huo Tian's golden immortal cosmos seemed off, half illusory, half real, as if he weren't a proper golden immortal at all. Yet, judging by the strength of his immortal force, he was at least in the late golden immortal realm. While Jiang Chengxuan pondered this, the clash between Huo Tian and the two cultivators raged on. The sky echoed with thunderous explosions as divine lightning and totemic, eerie Tao laws filled the void, colliding with the slashing light of Huo Tian's blade. In a blink, the three were locked in a fearsome battle within the storm, countless exchanges, immortal energy surging like tsunamis, with falling stars raining down like meteors. It came as no surprise that Huo Tian quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. After all, he was up against two foes, one of whom was at a higher cultivation level. The Guile Heaven sect's techniques were extraordinary. They controlled a form of totemic power that ignored normal Tao laws. These eerie symbols spread across the sky, exuding an aura of destruction and forcing Huo Tian into an increasingly passive state. Trapped in their domain, he was constantly constrained. Even as he unleashed various divine arts, manifesting whirlpools and killing beasts that roared across the sky and crushed starlight, his moves were countered with precision. Each time he attempted to mount a fierce attack, the two cultivators would evade it with cunning coordination, surrounding him with totemic chains that sealed, corroded, and slowly wore down his strength. 2-on-1 and still so cautious, what a pair of cowardly turtle immortals. Huo Tian couldn't help but curse them loudly, trying to provoke them into recklessness. But as though they had endured something traumatic in the past, the Guile Heaven sect cultivators remained calm, barely even reacting to his insults. Haha, what's still scared from last time? Fools, trash, you dare covet the power of that being. You're not even worthy. Despite his worsening predicament, Huo Tian showed no fear. On the contrary, he laughed wildly, shouting at them with unyielding arrogance, as though he were the strongest among them. HMPH, worthy or not, you'll find out soon enough, you old bastard. Totemic art, heaven warding suppression. At that moment, as the totemic powers thickened and grew heavy enough to blot out the sky, the two cultivators finally erupted with true fury. With a simultaneous shout, they unleashed long-suppressed divine powers. The sky filled with writhing totems that looked alive, transforming into countless fearsome manifestations. Divine weapons, vicious beasts, monstrous limbs, all surged toward Huo Tian like an unstoppable tidal wave. Seeing this, Huo Tian's expression shifted. He clenched his teeth and let out a fierce roar as he stopped holding back. With a sweeping motion, a boundless aura erupted from within him. Behind him, his illusionary golden immortal cosmos turned, and from the stars emerged a grand celestial canopy. Within the haze, a massive eye slowly opened across the astral sky, peerless in power. At that moment, all stars dimmed, and a mysterious force erupted from nothingness, blasting directly toward the Guile Heaven sect cultivators. This strike's power was terrifying, transcending the golden immortal realm and even carrying a faint hint of a primordial unity, Hunyuan, aura. Without hesitation, the strike collided with the totemic barrage. The celestial canopy tore apart in an instant, rending open a monstrous rift thousands of miles long and still spreading. From that gaping wound, chaos surged forth, darkening the heavens, shaking the earth and shattering space. Storms rose within 100 miles, chaotic immortal force flooded the skies, and stars shattered like glass. Even far away at the Nine Secrets auction house, cultivators felt the shockwaves. Many gasped in horror, knowing some terrifying experts were clashing nearby. Within the Nine Secrets sect, several high-ranking elders narrowed their eyes, their hearts tightening. They knew who was fighting, but even so, they dared not interfere. All they could do was watch as the heavens were turned upside down. Following Huo Tian's all-out strike, silence fell over the world. Chaotic energy raged through the land, obscuring the sky. Beneath the darkened heavens, all was quiet and unstable. You won't escape. Trying the same trick again. But that silence was soon shattered as two blinding rays of immortal light flared into the sky, illuminating the figures standing amidst the storm. During the chaos, Huo Tian had tried to flee, but the Guile Heaven sect cultivators had anticipated it and intercepted him immediately. Clearly, they'd been burned by this same tactic before, letting him slip through their fingers. This time, they were prepared, giving him no chance to escape. Heh, so you've finally grown some brains. Huo Tian scoffed, mocking them again, but deep down he knew it was the end. From the moment the Guile Heaven sect had found him, it had been a battle of wit and force spanning thousands of years. Every trick and technique he had, he'd already used. But his enemies were a hegemonic power, constantly sending more and more forces after him. He had finally reached the end of the line. Maybe this isn't a bad way to go. No need to chase after some elusive dream anymore. As that thought crossed his mind, a flicker of resignation passed through Huo Tian's eyes. Then, without hesitation, he activated all of his immortal force and Tao laws, reversing his golden immortal cosmos. In an instant, a terrifying power began to build. Space started collapsing, and the energy of destruction swelled. Damn it, he's trying to self-destruct his golden immortal cosmos. The Guile Heaven sect cultivators immediately noticed and reacted with lightning speed. They summoned a powerful immortal treasure, a black curtain that spread outward to envelop everything. This treasure was the binding life mystic Jade veil, a suppressive and sealing artifact. With a rush of cold winds, the dark veil expanded, devouring Huo Tian's golden immortal cosmos. In just moments, it had swallowed over half, drastically weakening the destructive energy within. HMPH, you're not going anywhere today. The pitch-black curtain surged toward Huo Tian again, this time leaving him with no room to escape. Seeing this, even Huo Tian couldn't help but feel a wave of despair, shock and fury flashing across his face. Buzz. But at that critical moment, Jiang Chengshuan finally made his move. No one expected it. In the blink of an eye, a powerful aura exploded into existence. An unstoppable edge of sword intent streaked across the sky, as brilliant as the stars, slicing directly toward the binding life mystic shade veil. That overwhelming force tore through the heavens. The black veil that had swallowed Hu Tian's cosmos was slashed apart in a single strike. Immortal radiance burst through the darkness, like the dawn piercing through the night. Even the binding life veil was torn open. The sword light, undiminished, continued toward one of the Guile Heaven sect cultivators. Caught off guard, the man's eyes went wide in shock. Hastily, he summoned his immortal energy and activated his strange totemic Tao to barely block the blow. Boom! Under the dim sky, light surged forth like a second sun rising, blinding and fierce. The impacted cultivator was blasted backward, chaos and immortal force erupting around him as he tumbled through the air, bloodied and disoriented. Chapter 1956, Rescuing Hu Tian, The True Secret, Part 1. Who dares, blind fool, how dare you meddle in the affairs of our Guile Heaven sect? The tide of battle shifted in a heartbeat. In the brief moment when it seemed the two cultivators from the Guile Heaven sect would succeed, Jiang Chengxuan's intervention shattered their momentum entirely. One of the sect's immortals instantly erupted with rage. His expression darkened, and his voice thundered like a great bell across the skies. Totem-like Tao runes squirmed and twisted around him, blazing with wrathful flame, poised to strike at any moment. Even Hu Tian, the slovenly immortal who was just on the brink of death, was stunned. For a moment, he stared in disbelief. He glanced across the chaotic battlefield, unable to imagine who, at such a desperate moment, would step forward to save him. His followers had long since scattered and faded with the disappearance of his ancient Tao teachings. Over the endless years, most had fallen, their cultivation crippled, or simply vanished into obscurity. Who could possibly still challenge the Guile Heaven sect? So when Jiang Chengxuan slowly emerged from the void, Hu Tian's pupils narrowed. He could hardly believe it. The mighty Guile Heaven sect now bullies the weak as justice. That's not a law I've ever heard of, Jiang Chengxuan said calmly. Draped in a flowing robe of blue and black, he stood tall and poised in the sky, hands behind his back. In his hand, he held the primordial chaos sword, its blade forged from starlight and flowing nebulae, radiating an awe-inspiring power. Seeing this, the Guile Heaven cultivator tensed. His brows drew tightly together. There was something unusual about this man. Yet having hunted Hu Tian for 1,000 years, they were unwilling to let this chance slip away. Without another word, the Guile Heaven cultivator's killing intent surged. He unleashed his golden immortal aura, locking onto Jiang Chengxuan and preparing to strike. "You brat, you dare ambush me. You're courting death," roared the other Guile Heaven cultivator who had just been blasted away by Jiang Chengxuan's earlier strike. Now returned to the battlefield, fury burning in his eyes. He unleashed his own gold immortal cosmos behind him and charged again. "Kill!" The second Guile Heaven cultivator followed suit. Both moved simultaneously, commanding a storm of bizarre, totemic Tao laws. The power of two golden immortals surged across the sky, blotting out the sun as they descended upon Jiang Chengxuan. Buzz! Jiang Chengxuan remained composed. With a flick of his wrist, the primordial chaos sword carved out a sweeping arc of light, tearing the heavens asunder. Behind him, a deep and boundless golden immortal universe emerged. Power exploded as he activated it. Massive celestial force erupted. With the ringing cry of a divine blade, a fractured image of the universe emerged behind him, tearing through all barriers. The sword's radiance clashed against the incoming totems, causing ripples like tidal waves. Space twisted and shattered. Boom! A storm of destruction surged across 1,000 miles. Jiang Chengxuan fought alone against two elite Guile Heaven cultivators. Their powers rent the void, and thunderous explosions shook the heavens. Very soon, their expressions became grim. They realized that this mysterious man before them not only had achieved the pinnacle of the golden immortal realm, but also possessed power far beyond ordinary comprehension. He wielded strange golden sigils that faintly counteracted their totemic Tao arts. Even his immortal weapon radiated fearsome force. Totem Sky Suppression. Shattering Totem, Kirin Ascension Technique. The battle quickly escalated. The two Guile Heaven cultivators grew more vicious, each unleashing their deadliest techniques. From the full-powered golden immortal, countless eerie totems expanded outward, darkening the heavens. Space was sealed layer by layer, swallowing the sun and moon. An aura of corruption spread through the void, twisting even the Tao laws themselves. Radiant suns formed from the everlasting scripture of divine manifestation were polluted and shattered like glass under an invisible hand. In the darkened sky, the golden suns fell one by one. Darkness reclaimed the firmament. Then an even more terrifying power surged. From the void emerged an enormous Kirin formed from black flames, its silhouette towering like a mountain range. It burned with destructive fire and roared toward Jiang Chengxuan. Even Huo Tian furrowed his brows at the sight. His eyes narrowed with solemnity. Within he was shocked. He had earlier discerned Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation was at the golden immortal peak, but he had not expected this level of combat power, to go head-to-head against two equally ranked immortals and hold his ground. Could it be that the power of that being had returned to the immortal world? A spark of a terrifying thought flickered in his heart, and his blood surged uncontrollably. Perhaps this young man truly possessed a connection to that supreme being. But for now, they had to survive this calamity. Just as the twin Gal Heaven cultivators launched their devastating final techniques, totemic storms that threatened to collapse the heavens, Jiang Chengxuan's expression remained unshaken. Ninefold Badhai Lamp activate. Chapter 1957, Rescuing Huo Tian, The True Secret, Part 2. Facing the overwhelming onslaught, Jiang Chengxuan knew he could no longer hold back. With a grand sweep of his hand, he invoked the ninefold Badhai Lotus Lamp. Behind him, within his golden immortal universe, a divine lotus slowly bloomed, radiant and magnificent among the dazzling stars of the galaxy. In an instant, boundless immortal energy surged forth, merging into Jiang Chengxuan's body. His aura soared to a terrifying height, leaving all who witnessed it in astonishment. Then, with two fingers brushing over the sword's blade, the everlasting manifestation scripture illuminated its surface. A sacred aura gathered as immense immortal energy poured into the sword. Slash. In the next moment, Jiang Chengxuan swung the primordial chaos sword at the oncoming, devouring Kirin apparition. Instantly, a blast of radiant immortal light exploded. A fragment of a shattered universe manifested from thin air. Within it, immortal energy surged and sword intent rampaged unrestrained, sacred brilliance filling the cosmos. Faintly, it even carried a trace of the primordial mixtuan energy. Boom roar. Amid the turbulent heavens, the universe fragment reversed direction and collided with the roaring dark Kirin. The clash unleashed terrifying shockwaves. Very soon, the fragment's power swelled like a gaping abyssal maw, swallowing the dark Kirin's apparition whole. Countless sword rays flashed, turning into streams of heavenly rivers that engulfed the foe, unleashing a violent assault that shredded the Kirin into countless wounds, drawing out pained roars. In just a few exchanges, Jiang Chengxuan's sword intent had suppressed the Gal Heaven cultivators' killing technique, truly terrifying. But the real danger was yet to come. In a moment, the golden immortal master unleashed his divine technique. His strange totems collapsed like an endless torrent. Where they passed, the void shattered inch by inch, Tao laws were annihilated, light extinguished, a cataclysmic destruction. Boom! Yet Jiang Chengxuan showed no retreat. With a gesture, his primordial chaos sword pointed, and the reversing universe fragment shifted its course, slicing at the wild, bizarre tidal wave of totems at a speed visible to the naked eye. The clash of two golden immortal-level forces surged violently, causing unimaginable destruction. Even the entire domain trembled under their power. Far away, the Nine Secrets auction house was shaken, activating protective formations to avoid the violent shockwaves. Countless immortals gasped, eyes turning toward the scene, hearts trembling. Who on earth is battling with such power, threatening to destroy this place? What terrifying force, which ancient clan's progenitor is fighting, have they gone mad? To dare unleash such fury in the territory of the Nine Secrets sect, who could it be? Impossible to imagine. Many stared at the distant chaos, as if the heavens themselves were collapsing, the universe leaking an immense void. Explosions of power made them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar, chills rising. Such terrifying might, if they were caught inside, would be like dust in the wind. Finally, under the blessing of the ninefold Badhai Lotus Lamp, Jiang Chengxuan's sword strike suppressed the Gal Heaven cultivator. At Jiang Chengxuan's level, opponents of equal rank were already rare. With the last remnants of the shattered universe fragment vanishing, countless totem Tao laws were severed, scattering into fragments of broken patterns across the sky. The Gal Heaven cultivator suffered backlash, trembling as his own universe was deeply torn. "Let's go." At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's voice sounded beside Hu Tian, who was momentarily stunned but quickly recovered and silently followed Jiang Chengxuan, transforming into a streak of light and escaping. Obviously, Jiang Chengxuan had no intention of settling the score with the two Guile Heaven cultivators. Though he had suppressed them, killing a golden immortal opponent was no simple matter. His purpose was simply to take Hu Tian away, and that was enough. Before the Guile Heaven cultivators could react, Jiang Chengxuan and Hu Tian flickered through space several times, becoming nothing more than distant shadows on the horizon. Damn it, damn it. I Guile Heaven sect will never let you off so easily. Moments later, the two Guile Heaven cultivators roared in furious frustration, eyes blazing red. They had finally cornered Hu Tian, but in the end, the duck was snatched away from their jaws. "Master, are you well?" Escaping the Guile Heaven sect's pursuit, Jiang Chengxuan and Hu Tian fled for days, reaching a quiet place in the neighboring wilderness domain to hide. "All minor injuries, nothing serious," Hu Tian replied calmly when Jiang Chengxuan inquired. "Why did you save me?" Hu Tian then asked directly. Jiang Chengxuan chuckled lightly, his tone less serious than before. "If you think I'm some hero who saves the oppressed, you're mistaken. In truth, I'm just curious about the supreme being you mentioned. I don't know the secret you carry." This was Jiang Chengxuan's true feeling. He didn't rescue Hu Tian because he believed he held any particular secret, but rather because of his own curiosity and speculation. Hu Tian studied Jiang Chengxuan for a long moment, then seemed to trust him enough to slowly speak. "You seem to have some connection with that great being. Ask whatever you want to know." Though he had given up on himself, he wouldn't ignore Jiang Chengxuan's kindness. That was his bottom line and dignity. Jiang Chengxuan paused thoughtfully before voicing his question. "If that supreme being transcended the immortal Tao, why have I never heard his legend? Who is he? What is your relationship with him?" The questions were not difficult. Hu Tian did not hide anything, but his answers were ambiguous, leaving Jiang Chengxuan puzzled. "That great being, having transcended the immortal Tao, naturally dwells beyond where we can see. We have never met him personally, only found his traces and legacy. We are his followers." Jiang Chengxuan was stunned. Never met him, yet became his follower. Hu Tian was no ordinary lost soul. "Then what about you? You didn't always seem like this. What does the Guile Heaven sect want from you?" Jiang Chengxuan pressed on with sharper questions. Hu Tian hesitated, then sighed with both nostalgia and confusion. "I was once a follower too, once at the De Luo realm, but due to certain accidents for survival, I severed my cultivation." Jiang Chengxuan was startled. Though he had suspected it, he never expected this disheveled immortal to have once been a De Luo golden immortal, a true pinnacle figure of the ancient realm, an immortal beyond death and life. This made Jiang Chengxuan even more curious about that supreme being. A De Luo golden immortal follower who had never met him. What kind of existence was this being? That Guile Heaven ancestor, somehow knowing I possessed the secret to breaking through the mixtuan, wanted to seize it. Little do they know, without mixtuan energy who can break through. As Hu Tian continued, Jiang Chengxuan was shaken further. The mixtuan energy, this crucial element, had again entered his vision. Mixtuan energy is extinct. Weren't all the immortals in the Forbidden Zone waiting for it? Eagerly, Jiang Chengxuan pressed on. Hu Tian knew too much, secrets Jiang Chengxuan had never heard. "Haha, since that great being fell silent, the chance for mixtuan has long vanished. Those cowards lack the courage to open the Forbidden Zone gates and claim it themselves. They only wait. What use is it to break through the mixtuan realm like that? How can one resist the invasion of the ominous?" Jiang Chengxuan's words seemed to provoke Hu Tian. His eyes grew fierce as he cursed the invisible heavens above, anguished, disdainful, yet furious. The information embedded in his words struck like thunder in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. The true secret was finally unveiled. Chapter 1958, Severing the Ominous, Beginning the Breakthrough /1. "You mean, the opportunity of the Hun Yuan Qi, primordial chaos energy, was sent into the Forbidden Zone by that supreme existence? And what exactly are the Forbidden Zone gates and the ominous invasion? Could it be that they do not originate from this world?" Lightning flashed across his mind. Jiang Chengxuan was shaken to the core, every hair on his body standing on end. He took a deep breath, then his gaze hardened as he rapidly asked. The information that the Huotian immortal had spilled out in anger moments ago far exceeded Jiang Chengxuan's expectations, containing so many hidden secrets that he could barely remain calm. The Huotian immortal hesitated, his eyes flickering as if suddenly realizing his slip of the tongue. He fell silent for a moment, then, looking into Jiang Chengxuan's sincere gaze, sighed deeply. Only then did he continue speaking, no longer holding back. The Hun Yuan Qi of the ancient realm had already completely vanished during some epoch in the past due to a cataclysmic upheaval. Since then, any cultivator who wishes to break through to the Hun Yuan de Luo, primordial chaos great Tao realm, can only seek the Hun Yuan power from beyond the heavens. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed sharply, picking out the key phrase. Beyond the heavens, what place is that? At this, the Huotian immortal glanced at him, his face darkening, then explained further. Indeed, just as you suspect, beyond the ancient realm, there exists an even vaster cosmos, known as Xianxia. Beyond Xianxia dwell numerous ominous races who view the human race of the ancient realm as mere prey. Many forbidden zones are actually ancient battlefields left behind by their invasions. That supreme existence rose during the ancient era, fought bloodily against these ominous species, ruling the ages alone, and ultimately drove them out of the ancient realm. Afterward, he single-handedly raised an army in the Xianxia world, blocking the ominous species from invading again and again. During this time, he continuously extracted the Hun Yuan power from Xianxia and funneled it into the ancient realm through the gates of the forbidden zones. To assist the cultivators of the ancient realm in breaking through to the Hun Yuan de Luo realm, granting them the qualification to go to Xianxia and help resist the ominous. In this way, the ancient realm was able to enjoy eternal peace. Cultivators below the De Luo realm could not perceive the truth, and were able to live safely under the shadow of that supreme existence. Boy, I see you. Perhaps you have the potential to reach Xianxia. I hope this cruel truth does not shatter your Tao heart. In the dead silence of the space, the Huotian immortal slowly revealed everything he had buried in his heart for countless millennia. All along, he had no one to confide in, and at first, he did not intend to tell Jiang Chengxuan, because this secret was too heavy, too cruel. To know such a truth was of no benefit to anyone, even he, after following that supreme existence and inheriting the legacy, had his Tao heart darkened and lived each day in dread. After a long time, he relied on faith to rekindle his fighting spirit, hoping to advance to the Hun Yuan de Luo realm, and travel to Xianxia to assist that supreme existence in resisting the ominous. However, it was at that moment that all his comprehension of the Tao faded, his strength plummeted, forcing him to sever his cultivation and merely survive until now. For a moment, Jiang Chengxuan's expression turned blank, frozen in place. His eyes vacant, his mind overwhelmed with tangled thoughts. The Xianxia world, the ominous species, the exhaustion of Hun Yuan power, all of it was too shocking, too overwhelming. No matter how strong Jiang Chengxuan's endurance was, he could not remain expressionless. These were secrets only accessible after reaching the De Luo realm. But Jiang Chengxuan had learned them earlier than anyone else, which was no good. Huotian fell silent, thinking Jiang Chengxuan had been frightened and was about to comfort him. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan shuddered, snapping out of his contemplation, and spoke solemnly. Never thought that above the ancient realm, such hidden truths existed. If this were to leak, it would surely cause turmoil throughout the ancient realm, those who are still laying plans in the forbidden zones. Do they all know the secret? His words stunned Huotian, who hadn't expected Jiang Chengxuan to calm down so quickly, accepting everything with almost no emotional fluctuations. Anyone at the De Luo realm should be able to sense the gates of the forbidden zones. They're all old, immortal scoundrels. How could they not know the secret? They just don't dare to act. Huotian said resentfully. The power of that supreme existence was unknown. The entire ancient realm had already reached an extremely dangerous state. Yet those immortal De Luo cultivators, each selfish and fearful of death, dared not personally try. Draw the Hun Yuan power from the gates of the forbidden zones and investigate. How pitiful! Hiding in this ancient realm without the protection of that supreme existence was just waiting to die. The angrier Huotian became, the redder his eyes grew. if it weren't for the fact that his comprehension of the Tao had faded. He would have long since opened the forbidden zones himself and ventured in to explore. Sigh. But in the end, Huo Tian could only sigh and tell Jiang Chengxuan all this, reigniting his will. But helpless to do anything himself. Powerless, he could only be one of those waiting to die. At his current strength, even entering the deepest parts of the forbidden zones and seeing the gates was impossible. You've already been tainted by cause and effect. From now on we part ways here. Those old immortal bastards will easily find you. Huo Tian said this sternly to Jiang Chengxuan, his face desolate, already returned to ashes. If you have the heart, after breaking through to the De Luo realm, you can go to the gates of the forbidden zones. Chapter 1959, Severing the Ominous, beginning the breakthrough /2. He turned to leave, speaking as he went, but his words were incomplete, his eyes flickering uncertainly. Clearly, although he hoped someone would open the forbidden zone gate and see the current situation outside. For Jiang Chengxuan, this was too unfair, something he couldn't bring himself to say. These ancient beings who had lived countless millennia, were all waiting. Could it be that such a junior was to step forward? Wouldn't that be a laughingstock? So he stopped speaking, gathering his immortal power, preparing to leave straightforwardly. Wait, honored one. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan's voice rang out, interrupting Huo Tian's departure. Huo Tian froze and turned back, eyes full of surprise and doubt. Heavy. If I am to break through to the De Luo golden immortal realm now, would you, honored one, protect my path? If that succeeds, I could immediately visit the Forbidden Zone gate and investigate the situation outside. Jiang Chengxuan smiled calmly, but his words hit Huo Tian's mind like thunderclaps. What, you want to break through the De Luo realm now, this? Huo Tian was stunned, dumbfounded, his eyes wide, breath rapid. He knew Jiang Chengxuan might use the Hun Yuan stone to break through, but he hadn't expected this stone to be Jiang Chengxuan's final preparation for the breakthrough. Everything else was already perfectly arranged by Jiang Chengxuan, seemingly foolproof. Even if you break through to De Luo Golden Immortal, I cannot stay here. Those old immortals will find us at any time. After a long moment, Huo Tian finally regained his senses, his gaze firm but still refused. He understood Jiang Chengxuan's meaning. The protection was a pretense, an excuse to shelter himself. I have methods to confuse time and space, and have comprehended the De Luo Dao for thousands of years. I trust myself. The breakthrough won't take long. Jiang Chengxuan spoke resolutely, his voice resonant with pride. He truly hoped Huo Tian would live well, for the harsh truth and the fate born for all beings was a heavy legacy, almost like a heritage. Moreover, Jiang Chengxuan felt some connection with Huo Tian, another reason to protect him. But in this moment, even Huo Tian was moved, unsure what to say, feeling at a loss. He had wandered alone, fallen into despair for 10,000 years, never expecting that in this desperate moment, he would gain Jiang Chengxuan's recognition and sincerity. It stirred a bitter emotion inside Huo Tian, tears welling in his eyes. But he did not shed them. Instead, his gaze hardened as he declared loudly, "Very well, since you're so confident, old man will go crazy with you this once." Ha, good. Jiang Chengxuan laughed heartily, his heart pounding wildly, excited and inspired. Hearing the truth of the outer cosmos, Jiang Chengxuan's fighting spirit was ignited. That supreme existence who ruled the ages alone, protected the ancient realm and countless beings, this deeply moved him. Imagining that ancient era, blood-red skies, ominous shadows, one man covering the heavens, breaking the Forbidden Zone gate, entering Xianxia, fending off countless enemies alone, battling terrifying ominous creatures. That was not far from the present Jiang Chengxuan's path. He chose to shoulder this responsibility because of the legacy. The De Luo realm has only one stage, no more early, middle, or late barriers. It is the immortal realm, beyond the mortal world. Once obtaining the Hun Yuan power and breaking through the De Luo golden immortal realm, one is no longer bound by the mortal world or reincarnation. Even facing Xianxia and ominous races, Jiang Chengxuan would have the strength to stand firm. Buzz. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan and Huo Tian resolved their decision and left. After several spatial jumps, returning to the Heoring Chuan sect. No one knew that a matter would soon occur here that would impact the entire ancient realm and billions of living beings. In this time-sacred hall, time can be muddled for about 1,000 years. Please protect my path, honored one. After 1,000 years, I will surely emerge as a Deluo. Outside a mysterious hall somewhere in the Heoran Xuan realm, Jiang Chengxuan said to Hu Tian. With Hu Tian's hopeful, admiring, and worried eyes upon him, Jiang Chengxuan turned and entered the hall. Knowing that ominous species might invade at any moment, Jiang Chengxuan's urgency was unmistakable. Even if not for anyone else, for himself and Shen Ruyan, he must break through to the Deluo golden immortal realm as fast as possible. Fortunately, it was still possible. With this pre-prepared time-sacred hall, and the Deluo Dao classic he had comprehended for thousands of years, Jiang Chengxuan had no distractions. After wandering the mortal world for 1,000 years, this moment had finally come. Though urgent, Jiang Chengxuan could face it calmly. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Without hesitation, he activated the time-sacred hall. The great formation hidden beneath the hall started. The space rippled and twisted with humming sounds, warping the void. A pile of rare, expensive immortal materials were consumed by the formation, all treasures related to the Tao of Time. Some refined by Jiang Chengxuan from the Deluo classic, others inherently powerful. Soon, the entire hall was affected by the interwoven forces. Outside, Hu Tian could no longer see the hall clearly, only a vague shadow. As if it had vanished from the present world. Finally, it has come. Jiang Chengxuan murmured, sitting cross-legged in the center of the hall. He closed his eyes, immersing his spirit into heaven and earth, banishing all distractions. The Hun Yuan stone and the immortal Luo Dao crystal were keys to the breakthrough. Besides these, many other methods were hidden within the golden immortal universe, all properly arranged. Each employed means beyond mortal understanding, letting Jiang Chengxuan's intent merge with the Deluo realm, guiding him toward that path. He only needed to move forward, step by step, with his own strength. Jiang Chengxuan did just that, recalling his mortal world journey, his entire cultivation life. Recalling all his insights and changes in faith. All these thoughts manifested within his golden immortal universe, causing constant transformations and fusion. He was to leave this universe, transcend time, transcend space, transcend life and death. Gradually, Jiang Chengxuan became like an ancient Buddha, silent within the hall, his consciousness fading. Did you hear? Someone rescued Hu Tian. Meanwhile, far away at the Guiyu Xuan sect, atop the throne, a god trembled with rage. This was a being who had already crossed the space-time river, appearing as an ordinary old man, yet radiating unfathomable aura. At his thought, the Tao itself trembled. Ancestor, the ancestor is here. That person scorned the might of Guiyu Xuan sect, sneaked in and rescued Hu Tian. Below the throne, 2 Guiyu disciples trembled, sobbing. Though both were Deluo golden immortals, in front of the old man, a single palm could wipe them out. Seems I must personally intervene. Ignoring the 2 kneeling disciples, the old man on the throne muttered to himself. In his eyes flickered a strange color. For some reason, he had not wanted to act lightly, hoping to leave some face and reverence for a certain existence. But now time was running out. His subordinates had failed again. He had no patience left. Even if it meant risks, he must act personally. In an instant, as the old man's thoughts shifted, the void shimmered with strange immortal light. The Tao twisted. The aura of cause and effect was easily seized by him. Time reversed, and scenes replayed in his mind. Soon he saw Hu Tian, saw Jiang Chengxuan, saw the Heoran realm. Chapter 1960, Ominous Invasion, The Arrival of the Mysterious Guard, Part 1. The location is in the eastern region of the ancient realm. As for exactly where, that's for you to find out. Yes, ancestor. On the throne of the mysterious guard sect, the old man with a terrifying aura spoke coldly, his expression somewhat gloomy. At his words, the 2 kneeling figures in the great hall trembled all over and immediately responded. Without hesitation, they bowed and withdrew from the hall, carrying out their orders. Soon, the power of the entire mysterious guard sect would be spread out. Every immortal sect under their command would become an anchor point, forging a vast net to track Jiang Chengxuan and the enigmatic immortal. No matter where they were, they would face the dimension-breaking strike of the colossal mysterious guard sect. However, after dispatching the 2 kneeling figures, the great immortal on the throne of the mysterious guard sect did not feel as pleased as one might expect. His brows were tightly furrowed, and a sense of confusion filled his heart. With his realm, he had long been able to easily perceive cause and effect. At first, it was indeed like this. But for some reason, as he tried to delve deeper, he encountered an impenetrable barrier. The final image was blocked, unclear. Otherwise, he wouldn't just be able to confirm the general direction of the enigmatic immortal, but pinpoint his exact location, at least within the bounds of a certain immortal city. It wasn't like this before. Could it be that his power has recovered somewhat? He muttered quietly, a strange mixture of reverence and fear welling up in his heart. He knew whose legacy rested on the enigmatic immortal. Even if he was just a follower, as long as he had a fraction of that power, it was enough to cause a chill down one's spine. Even though he himself was a grand Luo golden immortal, he was not qualified to stand shoulder to shoulder or be spoken of in the same breath. Heh heh heh, don't worry, he has long since fallen silent, trapped by my clan's scheme. At that moment, inside the great hall, another sinister, eerie laugh sounded, as if trying to reassure the great immortal. Upon hearing this, the latter shuddered and his eyes narrowed, glancing back. There, an invisible force twisted the space behind him, condensing into a phantom-like face. Its aura was extremely strange and ominous, completely out of sync with the world. HMPH, I naturally am not afraid. The great immortal showed displeasure, snorting coldly. Heh heh, once our clan takes control after this, you will receive everything you desire, heh heh heh. So don't hesitate any longer. That eerie and ominous presence was indifferent and continued coaxing. Finally, with a solemn sound, it vanished into the darkness. The great hall returned to silence. The great immortal's face was grave as he stood alone atop the throne, high and lonely. This strange, ominous presence had come from beyond the heavens, appearing before the great immortal during a certain Forbidden Zone riot. At first, he hated and despised this ominous thing, but as the Forbidden Zone disturbances grew more frequent, the ominous one told him the news that the great presence had fallen silent. After waiting for a long time and hearing no news of the birth of any primal chaotic energy, and after further investigation confirming the followers' paths had all ended in demise. All this unmistakably pointed to what the ominous race had said, so the mysterious guard sect had to consider another route. Hence, the projection of this strange, ominous presence appeared in the great hall. I have no choice. From the darkness came a whisper. The entire mysterious guard sect began to stir, searching for that last scene the great immortal had seen of the Haoran sect. Deep within the Haoran sect. Boom, boom, boom. One day, accompanied by deafening thunderclaps, 9-colored storm clouds spread across the sky, manifesting out of nowhere. Endless dazzling lightning lit up the void like a magnificent cosmic illusion, reflecting the heavens. It was extremely sacred, yet wildly violent and majestic. For a moment, the entire Haoran realm was shaken by this power. Countless immortals turned their heads, inhaling sharply. Because at the center of this phenomenon was the very depths of the Haoran sect. What's happening? How could this be inside the Holy Land? Quick, alert the elders, hurry. What a terrifying aura, it suffocates me. Countless disciples inside the Haoran sect were frightened. Though far from the center, they still felt an unparalleled pressure that silenced the heavenly Tao laws. Many immortal cities within the Haoran sect trembled repeatedly. Waves of chaotic immortal energy descended like storms, howling loudly. This aura, could it be? A golden immortal realm, but this isn't the Haoran patriarch's power. This thunder phenomenon, could it be her? Has she broken through to golden immortal as well? Some city lords noticed the extraordinary aura, vaguely familiar. It was from Shen Ruyan, the one responsible for managing most affairs of the Haoran sect. Recalling her previously displayed strength, after thousands of years, the answer was almost certain. Boom, boom, boom. The thunderclaps intensified. Layer upon layer of lightning weaved into a raging sea of stars, a golden immortal cosmos slowly emerging. She really has broken through, such profound fortune a terrifying successor. Among them, Elder Yunshi, who had returned to the Yunlin sect, also sensed it and sighed in awe. As for Jiang Chengxuan, he could hardly describe it, but Shen Ruyan was truly extraordinary. Chapter 1961, Menace Invasion, The Arrival of the Mysterious Guard, Part 2. Yet with just 10,000 years of cultivation, she had broken through to the golden immortal realm. Even among their era's greatest, none could surpass Shen Ruyan. Though it had taken some time, gradually, as the thunderlight engulfed thousands of miles, and the golden immortal phenomenon stabilized completely. A beam of immortal light shot up from the core of Haoran's sect, piercing the 9 heavens. An invisible pressure was fully unleashed, enveloping more than half of the Haoran realm, forcing all things to submit. At that moment, everyone saw a figure bathed in 9-colored divine thunder appear floating in the air. She was shrouded beneath the immortal light, her true face hard for ordinary people to discern. Behind her floated a miniature cosmos, where heavenly light and thunder raged, stars scattered, and the Milky Way flowed. Countless immortals gazed up at her as if she were a goddess from beyond the heavens, bestowing sanctity upon the world. Above the void, Shen Ruyan overlooked the entire Haoran realm, her beautiful eyes containing myriad splendors. Never before had the heavens seemed so small, the universe so close. Even with her strong will, she felt her mind stir and joy bloom on her face. At this moment, she only wished to find that person and share with him all the joy of breaking through to golden immortal. However, when Shen Ruyan's vast golden immortal perception swept across the Haoran realm, she did not detect her husband's aura as she expected. Instead, she sensed another golden immortal's power in a corner, along with a faintly distorted area. Then something completely unexpected happened. From a certain place in the Haoran realm sky, a powerful immortal energy suddenly burst forth, burning the horizon. Simultaneously, a storm gathered, blotting out the sun, darkening the world. Next, the sky was torn open by a huge rift, from which heavenly light spilled and melted space, causing powerful waves of spatial turbulence to surge. What is that? Why is the sky suddenly dark, so strange? Such intense spatial fluctuations. Maybe an enemy has invaded. Quickly alert the city lords. Emergency alert, emergency alert. This sudden crisis was obviously unrelated to Shen Ruyan's breakthrough. Immediately, many immortal cities across the Haoran realm erupted in uproar. Immortals were shocked, faces grave. Fresh from breaking through to golden immortal, Shen Ruyan barely had a moment to rejoice before her brows furrowed tightly. Her golden immortal power condensed, but was held back as she stared toward the rift in the sky. The rift gradually morphed into an abyss, emitting strange humming sounds as the void trembled. Several figures stepped out of it, treading the void with disdain for heaven and earth. Behind each floated a golden immortal cosmos, their fierce auras throwing the world into chaos. Hisu. 3 golden immortals. All immortals within the Haoran realm widened their eyes in shock, their hearts nearly breaking. They had just been celebrating their sect gaining a new golden immortal. In a blink, 3 uninvited golden immortal level guests had arrived. How could they not be stunned? It felt like a nightmare. We found it, this is the place, ha. We can finally return and report to our ancestor. Ignoring the shock of millions of immortals, the 3 newly appeared golden immortals looked toward the heart of Haoran's sect, laughing loudly like they had found a great treasure. Their arrogant behavior confirmed everyone's worst fears. These visitors bore ill intent. Who are you? Why have you trespassed into my Haoran realm? Leave at once. Shen Ruyan again unleashed the golden immortal cosmos phenomenon, her pressure spreading to the horizon as she shouted angrily across the void. At her words, the 3 were taken aback, noticing others present for the first time. One paused, then scoffed disdainfully and said, "Mentioning the name Mysterious Guard Sect is sure to send you fleeing in terror. How dare you be so rude to me?" Instead of retreating, the few became even more domineering, taking the offensive. "Mysterious Guard Sect, it's them. How is this possible? How could people from the Mysterious Guard Sect come here?" Some in the immortal cities exclaimed in fear, trembling as they recalled the dreadfulness of the Mysterious Guard Sect. It was a colossal force from the ancient realm. Even the Haoran sect at its peak was but a rising power before it. "Everyone, is there some misunderstanding? Why would your sect have any dealings with us?" At that moment, Elder Yunshi suddenly arrived, sensing something amiss. He attempted to mediate and resolve the conflict peacefully. "HMPH, you immortal sect people have ruined the plans of the Mysterious Guard Sect. Today, if you do not hand over the person, this day will be your end." Yet the 3 golden immortals refused to yield, remaining extremely arrogant and even showing signs of killing intent. One of them was notably one of the Mysterious Guard immortals, who had pursued the enigmatic immortal that day. Recently, the entire mysterious guard sect had poured immense effort into searching for Jiang Chengxuan and the enigmatic immortal. Just as Shen Ruyan emerged from seclusion, their violent power attracted them. It turned out that the place the mysterious guard's ancestor ordered them to find was right in the heart of the Haoran sect. Truly, they had found it effortlessly after a long search. Upon hearing the reply from the mysterious guard immortal, Shen Ruyan and Elder Yun, she immediately realized. These people were here because of Jiang Chengxuan. Because only Jiang Chengxuan's level could even reach the mysterious guard sect from the entire Haoran sect. Shen Ruyan's expression hardened. Nine-colored lightning surged over her as she thundered. You trespass upon the territory of the Haoran sect and still dare to speak arrogantly. In the next moment, Shen Ruyan unleashed a fierce and immense golden immortal power. Behind her, the golden immortal cosmos phantom manifested, and the sky-darkening nine-colored lightning flooded like a torrent, breaking through darkness and pressing down. Because Jiang Chengxuan was involved, Shen Ruyan would not hesitate or retreat. She was resolute, knowing the only choice was to strike first. Boom, boom, boom. Even the few from the mysterious guard sect did not expect Shen Ruyan's decisiveness. The savage golden immortal lightning storm crashed down, engulfing their location. The void ignited with roaring flames, destruction and chaos erupting. Activate the sect's protective formation. At the same time, Shen Ruyan shouted, awakening many elders of the Haoran sect. Without hesitation, they hurriedly activated the arrangements left by Jiang Chengxuan. Immortal light poured from them into the formation, revealing hidden patterns one by one, constructing a massive, ancient totem that covered the core of the Haoran sect. Seeking death. Only then did the somewhat embarrassed mysterious guard golden immortal roar in anger. Breaking through the chaos and lightning with overwhelming momentum, their immortal power surging. The great battle was about to erupt. The three mysterious guard golden immortals simultaneously unleashed their divine powers, manifesting golden immortal cosmos phenomena, condensing countless totem-like laws. Immortal treasures radiating immortal light appeared in their hands, gathering golden immortal power and transforming into terrifying might that shattered the void. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying power struck the sect's protective formation with thunderous roars, stirring a storm. The entire Haoran sect trembled violently. Sigh. Seeing this, Elder Yunshi had no choice but to intervene, manifesting his own golden immortal cosmos, forming a protective barrier to reinforce the sect's formation and resist the assault. After all, the opponents numbered 3 golden immortals, 1 in the late stage. With the Haoran sect's current strength and without Jiang Chengxuan, they could not withstand this. Given his friendship with Jiang Chengxuan and the complicated relationship between the Haoran sect and Yunlin immortal clan, he could not simply give up or change course. Therefore, even if war broke out with the mysterious guard sect, he would at least help Jiang Chengxuan protect Shen Ruyan. Ensuring no accidents happened to her, that was his bottom line.